How y'all doing? This is Kenny from the Walking Dead game. Well, actually, it's Gavin Hammond. I played him in the game, but it's not important. The important thing is you're listening to The Gaming Outsider.
Greetings and salutations, Gaming Outsiders. I'm Grant Henry, aka Stemmage. Zach, Alyssa, and Scott asked me to join on this week's episode to talk about my experience making music for games, and to discuss our favorite moments in games involving music. In news, Nintendo made a bunch of new announcements at their February Direct. You'll also hear my impressions of System Shock Pinball, which Scott shockingly hasn't played. Also, Mark stops by to talk about two games he's been playing. One is called 64, and the other is Pixel Cross Story of Seasons. This is The Gaming Outsider.
Hey guys, Scott Clark with The Gaming Outsider here. If you're in the market for a new gaming chair, I've got a fantastic deal for you. We've partnered with eWin Racing, who produces the most comfortable gaming chair I've ever sat in. They've got them in sizes for all gamers, and the quality is simply incredible. As a listener of The Go, you can get 25% off your order if you use the promo code TGO at checkout when you visit ewinracing.com. You don't have to just take my word for it, however, as multiple members of our community have picked up a chair for themselves, and they love it just as much as I do. You won't be disappointed. eWin Racing, the best gaming chairs out there. Greetings, programs, and welcome to The Gaming Outsider, a video game podcast with a focus on our incredible community, which can be found at thegamingoutsider.com. There's also a community on Facebook, which can be found at facebook.com/groups/thegocast, and even a Discord server. You can find that link in the show notes of this very episode. It is Sunday, February 25th. I'm your host, Scott Clark, and joining me are my good friends. First off, Mr. Zach Parkerson. How you doing, sir?
Hey, feeling better than last week. Last week I was sick, and I don't feel like I remember a lot of what I said. So I could have, who knows what happened last week.
I'm glad you said that, because I really thought you were mad at me last week.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I didn't want to be that guy to be like, hey dude, are you okay? Did you? No, I mean, I'm not glad to hear that you were sick. Mm-hmm. I'm glad to hear that you're better, but I'm glad that that's why you felt like you were. Anyway,
oh yeah, it was like 2 days later. I was like, what did I even say on that show?
Kind of like me when I was drinking during that one episode.
Yeah, But I guess that was a lot less fun. Apparently, angrier.
Also joining us is Miss Alyssa White. How are you doing?
Better than last week. Still not great. I gotta be honest, not great. Not 괜찮아.
Wow.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
I started learning Korean. Yes.
Oh yeah, well that makes sense.
You started learning Korean? You switched over from Japanese?
No, I'm doing both.
Oh, good lord. I can't handle one language. So,
well,
anyway.
Once I reach like 1,000 something days of Japanese, I'm like, I'm going to add Korean. What the heck?
Sure, why not?
Yeah.
One of the toughest languages out there. Let's just add another one. All right.
That's what happens when I'm depressed. I start doing crap like that and it sticks.
Oh my goodness. Well, good on you. I'm proud of you. But
thank you.
And I've also got a very special guest to welcome to the podcast. We have been talking about having him on the podcast in a regular episode for 3 years now, guys?
Yes,
and it just
we
never
seriously
seems to
love
happen.
this guest.
We absolutely do. And I got to say, I've had more people message me this week saying how excited they were for this episode because of this guest. It gives me great pleasure to welcome Mr. Grant Henry of Metroid Metal and Stemmage. How you doing, man?
I'm great. I'm blushing now. Also, I'm drinking today, so we'll see how this goes. I got
nice.
You're taking the Scott Clark position.
I am. If he's not going to do it,
are you going to ask me
it.
to say a news story twice, Grant?
Is that what happened? I mean,
Yes.
if you'd
my
like
goodness.
me to, I can't. I mean, we'll see. That's later. We'll see if we get there.
I'm sorry, I can't let you live it down, Scott.
I know. I was not my proudest moment, but boy, did I get a lot of messages of people saying they wanted more of that. So, sorry, guys.
Must
I made
feel
a
real
promise.
good, Scott. That
Ask
people like you
Alyssa to
more.
read more news stories all the time.
People like Scott more when he's drunk. I'm sure that feels great.
Apparently,
I
yeah,
do
that
love
feels
that.
awesome.
I love the GoCast After Dark is just more confusing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
racy. It's just like, what part of the document are we in? What are we doing?
What does Nintendo make?
Oh my goodness! I got a quick story to tell you guys. Hopefully, this person is actually listening to this episode. But I DJ'd a wedding last night, and didn't even put two and two together because I used my laptop on my table, and on the back of my laptop I got a MacBook. I got the Zelda crest, the
Sure, the
wings.
Hylian crest.
Yeah. And I took my laptop outside to line up the bridal party because I was getting ready to announce them. And the maid of honor says, "I love your Zelda icon on the back of your laptop." And I was like, wow, that's never happened before. Nobody's ever commented on anything video game related that I'm carrying, hardly ever. And I just thought it was really cool. She said, "I'm a massive Zelda fan. It's so cool." And I was like, I got something to show you later because I wanted to show her the picture of my Zelda collection.
Yeah, you want to show her a picture of your Master Sword?
Yeah.
I knew this is where it was going.
Oh my goodness. Anyway, I showed her the picture of my Zelda collection, showed her my picture of my NES collection, and she found out I had a podcast, and she said, well, she was going to check it out. So Jenny, if you're listening, thank you so much. It was really nice to meet you.
Hey, girl.
Hopefully you enjoyed this podcast and my good friends here. So that was just a really, I don't know, I'm not used to people commenting on video game stuff that I've got, whether it be t-shirts or anything. It's usually people rolling their eyes and not someone going, dude, that's awesome. So it was pretty cool. Anyway, let's jump into the games that we've been catching up on. Grant, you are our guest. What games have you been playing?
I haven't been playing quite as much recently because I've been pretty busy, but I did finally knock out Prince of Persia.
Mm-hmm.
What a
The
game.
original?
Yes, the original.
Wow.
Lots of really awkward platforming. No,
Yes.
this new one is the opposite of awkward. This game is fantastic. Best Metroid
yeah.
game since Dread. Perhaps better. I don't know.
Wow.
But I just really, really liked it. I think I did my best to complete the puzzles that I didn't feel like I wanted to look up and the answers for. And then, I kind of went back and did a bunch of backtracking. I think I completed the game. I beat the game at about 83% or so,
Nice.
which is pretty good, I think.
Yeah.
And I just don't know if I care to go 100%, and I'm not really going for that. But I do want to. I'm sure there's going to be some DLC for it, so I will revisit it. But yeah, that game game rules.
They just announced content is coming.
Okay.
Pre-content updates.
That's great.
So
Ran into some
That's
big bugs, some issues. Lost about 20 minutes of progress, getting stuck and floating in the air. A couple weird things, but really? Making games is hard.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, just a fantastic game. I really liked it. So that's one that I enjoyed.
Nice.
it's I know it's like the first big game that came out this year, but it already feels like, what the hell is going to beat that game?
I mean,
yeah.
it's
so
such a
good.
classic formula that's been modernized in a perfect way, and I feel like people are scared to put money into that kind of stuff. Like, this is sort of like, this doesn't feel completely indie, but it doesn't feel completely mid-tier either. They went all out with like the artwork. Did you guys all play it?
Yes.
I have not,
Why?
so I feel very out of the loop.
Well, there's just there's a part of the world that involves a ship. I'll just say a ship on stormy waters that just blew my mind. Like, I had to just stop and look at it. And just incredible stuff. So, and lots of really epic sort of like over stylized anime flashing lights, action sequences, kind of like Azura's Wrath kind of stuff that I thought was really cool. So I don't know. They really, I think they went the extra mile with the budget they had. So I loved it. It's great.
Definitely.
Yeah. It's like Zach said, it's going to be tough to top that game
true.
already. I think I have a number 2 already at this point.
Yeah.
But
well, if you played 2 games, you have a number 2. So
I've played more than 2 games.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, I have in
2
my
you love.
brain what my number 2 game of the year is going to be already.
is it
but,
Balatro?
It is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll get to that.
A lot of talk
Sweeping
about
the
that.
nation.
I gotta try that. Wish it was on my phone, but it's not. That's fine.
It's coming to mobile.
Is it really?
Allegedly, it's coming to mobile.
Gotcha.
But
Well, the other game I've been playing is I did start Mario vs. Donkey Kong. I love the original. It's one of my favorite GBA games. I love the weird animations in those games, and I love that type of puzzle game. It's really fun. It's very vanilla in terms of the visual style and stuff, and it's very old school. It's very easy. But I'm maybe 3 worlds into that game, and I just love that formula. It's cool. I like the way that game plays more than all the sequels. I like playing as Mario and doing stuff instead of just controlling a bunch of lemmings, which is kind of like how all the sequels played. It was all the March of the
I didn't
Mini-
even remember the sequels. This
There's
is the only one
tons.
I
There
ever
was
heard of.
it was like March of the Minis, and then a bunch of others that just kind of followed that same thing. But I'm way more into the kind of platformy stuff, so I'm really enjoying it. It's real good.
Nice.
I used my voucher on it. I had 1 voucher left from last year, and it was only a $49 game, but there's nothing else I wanted. And those vouchers expire in a year, and you have to use it on a game that is releasing by the time the voucher expires. You can't pre-order a game. I was hoping that like something later in the year would come up that I could pre-order, but it has to be a game that comes out within a year of buying the vouchers. So I did save money on Zelda, but I just sort of blew it on this game because I didn't really save any money.
What are these vouchers? What?
You pay $100 and you get 2 vouchers that you can use on any Nintendo game.
Oh.
And those Nintendo games now are more expensive. If you remember, Tears
Right.
of the Kingdom was $70. So you could use it. You could get it for $50 that way. So you could pick 2 $60 or $70 games and save $20 to $30 on them. So I just did it to save money on Zelda, and I was like, some Metroid's Prime 4 is coming, right? And then whatever. So I just
any decade now.
Yeah. So I just broke even on the second one. But yeah, they did that program last year, and it's kind of cool, I guess, if you buy a lot of Nintendo stuff.
Yeah.
But
Nice.
anyway, that's it for me.
All right, Alyssa, what about you?
Mine's a little embarrassing. I played all of House Flipper.
Why is that embarrassing?
That's a lot of content.
Yeah.
That's the base game plus 4 DLC packs.
Whoa.
And I looked up how long, or how many hours I put in. 99 hours.
Whoa.
Hey, if you like the game, there's nothing embarrassing about it.
It was very calming. But I did play all 4 DLCs, which is Garden Flipper, Luxury Flipper, Farm Flipper, and Pet Flipper. Which Pet Flipper didn't have much to do with pets. You get to adopt one animal and then put cages in people's houses and aquariums. But that's it. Didn't really get the point of that one. But it was fun still to do the houses.
Yeah. My woe at your 99 hours was not any kind of judgment. It was I didn't know that there was 99 hours of house flipping content available.
Right.
I didn't either. And the thing is, the base game I spent 44 hours, I believe. So 55 hours of DLC. So longer
That's
than the actual
insane.
game.
I guess.
Wow.
I guess the DLC's worth the money then, right? Well, except
Yeah.
for maybe the pet one.
Well, I
Did you
mean,
get-
I got the farm and pet bundle for $9 total. It
Nice.
was on sale.
Could
Normally,
you?
it's more expensive.
Can you pet the dog? Would Twitter be happy about this?
You can pet the dog. You can pet the dog, play fetch, play tug of war, give the dog a bath. You can take it to the job with you, but all it does is walk around the house. There's really no point in taking it to the job with you.
Can you flip the dog? That's what I want to know.
You cannot. No.
Well, then I am suing for false advertising because
No flipping dogs in this game.
Oh, well.
Hey, if you love the game though, that's I mean, I wish I could actually see how many hours I've spent on Pinball FX. I would probably be embarrassed, but who cares?
Who cares? Yeah, I got 1,000 hours in Spider Solitaire. It's like if it brings you joy and you zen out, like embrace it, sing the praises.
What about
Anyway.
you, Zach?
I was shot by 99 hours. Sorry, Zach.
You got to do it one more hour. You can't just let this.
I know
sit at
you better
99.
you better hit that 3-digit and then stop forever.
Putting up rookie house flipper numbers at 99. As for me, same games as last week. Persona 3 Reload. I continue to play. You can pet the dog in this game.
Ooh.
Just wanted to let you know. Every time I see that now, though, I'm so cynical that I'm like, you just did this for the Twitter advertising.
Trying to make the
Much.
gamers happy.
Yeah. Persona 3 Reload continues to be very, great, though not as good as I remember because I assume I'm no longer a teenager. But it's a great game. Excellent combat system. Loving going up Tartarus. I assume that this will just, I will have to just stop playing this completely coming up here on Thursday.
Yes, I'm
pretty
trying to suck up as much as I can of everything as well before Thursday gets here.
sure my life's about to get railroaded. But I briefly also, I do continue to play Trails in the Sky SC. And don't worry, I will go back to just quietly playing this and not talking about it every week. But the story is paying off a bunch of seeds from the first game that I didn't even know were planted, which is one of my favorite things. And I am surprised. It seems like every character has an arc throughout this duology. Like even like there's a shopkeeper who was crushing on the shopkeeper girl across the street in the first game, and now they're like planning to get married. And this is a shopkeeper that you don't even have to talk to these people at all. So but
Totally side characters with their own arcs.
exactly, yeah. Which is kind of nuts. And every NPC gets new dialogue after every major story beat, which is that just sounds like a lot of work.
That's
But
incredible.
it really is. But more importantly, is your party members are all fleshed out because in the first game, they drop by and they're all kind of guest characters. and a lot of them just kind of feel like, okay, here's a big tough guy, here's the kind martial artist Goku type person. But then we're learning in the second game we're learning a lot more about these characters, and they're just a lot more complex than I would have assumed. And the arcs they go through, especially Estelle, the main character, she's already one of my favorite JRPG protagonists ever. Just has an incredible storyline and arc through these two games. I don't know.
I
High
think it's
recommendations.
interesting that a game rewards you for talking to NPCs.
Yes.
What other game does that? Like, you do it just because you hope you get like an item, or they might point you in the direction of an item or something like that. But for a story beat to pay off with a non-playable character is just kind of insane to me, and that's awesome.
Yeah, I can't. That just seems like I feel like I would go crazy if I was a writer. Trying to keep track of all these characters and everything.
Right.
But yeah, it's not the typical JRPG standard where there's just like a character who just stands at the same stall for 40 hours and just says, "Yeah, I love hot dogs," and that's all they have to say for the whole game. There's a real arc here. It's kind of impressive.
Awesome. Well, speaking of petting the dog, I put in some more time with Baldur's Gate 3 this morning with Kevin. It's become our Sunday morning tradition. And I almost didn't because I was so exhausted. I did 2 gigs this weekend. Didn't get home until like 11:30 last night, and then I got up at 5 so that I could play with Kevin this morning. And the dog thing is in the game there is a companion or I'm not gonna say a party member, but somebody that like hangs out at your camp that is a dog. His name is Scratch, and you can go up to him and talk to him and pet him, and then there's like little things that you can do, and a lot of it I haven't discovered yet. But Kevin is a massive dog guy, if you don't know this. And
oh, really?
The way that Kevin
play Persona 3. One of your party members is a dog.
There you go. So anyway, I am playing this game, and the way that it works is that each character can go have their own conversations with anybody, and then the second person can come in and listen in on somebody else's conversation and to experience it. Kevin wasn't around, so I assumed he wasn't seeing my conversation, and I didn't mean to click on Scratch to have this conversation with Scratch, and the only options are to pet him or to leave. And I just knew, because I've pet him so many times, that I didn't need to pet him right now. There was no new dialogue, so I just hit leave. And Kevin said, "Did you just not pet the dog?" And I was like, "Oh, you saw that?" So that was just kind of a funny moment. Like, he was like borderline upset with me that I didn't pet the dog. But anyway, the game continues to be awesome. We just finished this goblin keep or dungeon. We had to take out these 3 main bosses. That was really fun and difficult. And we started heading to a new area. And I mentioned it last week on the show, how I love playing with Kevin, even though he's beat the game. You would think that somebody playing with someone that has already beat the game would not be a fun experience, but doing that with Kevin is amazing. And I think Kevin is also having an equally fun time because he knows what's happening and he's watching me react. So we came to a new area in the game, and it gave us this warning like, hey, just a heads up, this area is above your level. You can go here, but you're not going to have a good time. So I decided I didn't want to do that, and we headed towards somewhere else. And Kevin, again, not wanting to spoil anything, completely did not tell me that we were going to come across this really difficult boss. It was they're called a spectator. Are you guys familiar with D&D? Do you know what a spectator is?
No.
They're like I've been told that they are like the little brother to a beholder. They're like in the same family, but they're just not quite as nasty as a beholder.
Hence the name, I see.
Yes. And so we come in here, and I had no idea that Kevin, when he went through this portion of this game fighting this boss, was not able to, like, he was like 2 or 3 levels higher than we were. We're still at level 4 in Baldur's Gate 3. And he struggled with this boss at whatever level he was at. So he knew coming into this battle that we just weren't going to win it, right? But he wasn't telling me. He made a comment like, just so you know, this section is pretty tough. That's all he said, but he didn't say, like, we're not going to win this. So we go up and we go across this boss who has 121 hit points, which is the most we've seen at this point for anything. And I'm playing as Karlak, one of the characters in the game. Not my character, but I was controlling my character and Karlak. It's the tiefling that's like the female tiefling that is just really badass in this game. I rolled exceptionally well on this encounter and took out about 2/3 of his health in between me and Kevin in a turn and a half. And Kevin was like, "Oh, hey, we might actually, beat this boss and push through it," and we actually did beat this pretty big boss at like level 4. And Kevin was like, "Yeah, I did not think we were gonna walk into there. He was just letting me experience it. You know what I mean? Like he walked into this going, this isn't gonna happen, but I'm gonna let Scott see how it plays out, and it would just wind up being a really cool experience that we did pull off. So it didn't change my perspective, but I feel like it's changed his." And that like anything could happen. Now, we're not going to always get that incredibly lucky, but it was a really cool feeling, and we got some cool rewards, and it was actually shortly after that we had to sign off and stay tuned next week for that. So, Zach, you got to play this game, man.
I mean, it looks good.
It does look good. It's just there's so many games.
I know.
They're so long.
The nice thing with Baldur's Gate is I'm not playing it. This is just something I'm playing because I want to play it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not in a rush to finish it. Obviously the game that we're going to be playing this week is going to take precedence over that one. But I still want to try to make some time to do it. But I can just play this whenever I want. I think it's become my multiplayer game of choice, and I look forward to it every week. I need to squeeze in more time than just the Sunday morning because we played it for like 5 or 6 hours, but it's going to take me a couple years to get through this game at this rate, but it would be super fun to get some more people in there. And I didn't get a chance to play with my other group this week because one of my groups was sick, so we'll get back into that. But also, Balatro, talked about it pretty extensively last week. I actually got my first win today, so that feels good to finally have that monkey off my back because I have been struggling. But I finally did it, unlocked some new decks, and new jokers, and all that kind of good stuff. So I'm eagerly anticipating getting back into that. Seriously, if you guys have not played Balatro, there's a free demo on Steam that is perfectly suitable for a Steam Deck. But you can also purchase it on any of the consoles, PlayStation, Xbox, or Switch. It's $15. I cannot recommend it enough. It is addicting. It is so addicting, and every run makes it feel like a completely different experience, and I more people need to experience this. I feel like it's not marketed very well. It's only getting word of mouth, and I think in the first week he's sold like 250,000 copies, which sounds like a lot, but I feel like this one is going to hit its stride once more people start hearing about it. Please check it out. It's made by one guy, by the way. One guy made this game. It's just kind of blowing my mind.
Is it touchscreen if you're playing on Steam Deck?
Yes, you can do touchscreen and on Switch as well.
Yeah, I knew it was on Switch, but I was just curious. I hear touchscreen is a really cool fun way to play it, which makes sense with it being cards.
You're right. I prefer using the controls just because I feel like there's no comfortable way to hold a Steam Deck or a Switch with one hand.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's why I mentioned the mobile thing earlier. I'm curious. I don't want to like wait and try to get it cheaper. I always have my phone, and it sounds like a kind of fun, quick run game. But
the thing is that runs aren't quick. That's the only thing. Like you sit down and a round will take you 2-3 minutes, but like the run I did today was 27 hands or 27 rounds.
Okay.
So you're looking at potentially over half an hour to go through. It's not like something you're going to do in waiting in line at the bank or something like that. Who does that anymore, by the way? It goes to the bank anymore. All right.
Parents do.
Do they? I do once in a while,
They're
but mostly
technology averse.
Okay. All right. Well, let's go ahead and jump into the week's news. First off, let's kick off with some new trailers. Power Wash Simulator Warhammer 40,000 DLC is coming on February 27th. They just keep pumping out DLC for that game. It's nuts. We got a trailer for Hi-Fi Rush, which is coming to PS5 on March 18th, as well as Sea of Thieves sometime in April. Actually, I think the date was there. I just did not write it down, so maybe somebody can correct me on that. We got a trailer for Epic Mickey Rebrush, which is a remake of the original game, which I think was on Wii. It's coming to PlayStation, Xbox, Switch, and PC later this year. We finally got the actual trailer for the Borderlands movie. No date, just coming soon. There is a new trailer for the Plucky Squire with some new gameplay. Still no release date on that one. And lastly, Llamasoft, which is based on, I believe it's Jeff Minter. Is that right, Zach?
Yes.
It's what's the developer? Digital Eclipse?
Yeah, I mean, well, but also coming is the Jeff Minter history documentary. It's the second Gold Master series, the thing that did the Karateka.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's coming to Xbox, PlayStation, Switch, and PC on March 17th. EA Sports College Football 25 is official. I know a lot of people are excited about that. Microsoft announced a bunch of new games for Game Pass, and we had Nintendo's February Direct this past week. Grant, you are our guest, sir. Which story would you like to talk about?
Oh dear, I get to pick one of these.
Mm-hmm.
Let's look at the. The trailers. I mean, do I pick a trailer or do I pick?
You can do whatever you want, man.
I'm really excited about the Llamasoft project documentary thing. They've been doing really well with that stuff. Jeff Minter's really cool. All his games are very strange and very, very unique. And
Space Giraffe is the one that sticks out in my mind.
Space Giraffe. He did a bunch of the Tempest stuff. I just feel like it'll be. I love this like game in the style of a documentary. Experience is something that I'm surprised it's taken this long to get to. I still have yet to play the Karateka one, but I hear it's fantastic. I hear it's a really, really, really good experience. So I'm really stoked about this Jeff Minter thing. I just think it'll be a really fun and funny and strange experience to play through this guy's games. I love that stuff, so I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, I think it's cool that Digital Eclipse is so committed to this interactive documentary thing that they call it the Gold Master series, right? Like they're committed to continue rolling these out, which is super cool because the Karateka one was incredible. I assume this one will be as well. I don't know a lot about Jeff Minter, but I'm about to.
Yep. And I do think about that with like I don't think Karateka did it especially well for them because Karateka is not super popular now. I imagine they'll probably, now that they're owned by Atari, they'll probably be going back and forth between ones that are a bit more obscure and maybe ones that cover a series that people just know a lot more to try and bolster sales a little bit. But they're definitely taking steps to try and cover the most interesting people that have ever worked in the industry, even though people may not know all their catalog. People who've inspired other people that made games that people do know, right? So I'm curious to see what they what they do next. But I am excited about the Llamasoft one.
Yeah, fingers crossed for a making of Prince of Persia.
Oh yeah.
I assumed that was what was next.
Yeah, be great.
Well, I think you probably got to get some kind of clearance from Ubisoft for that, right?
You would, but I think it's doable.
Yeah.
I mean, there's probably a lot of especially with game franchises that have lived a long time. There's just more and more red tape depending on how many games there've been and under how many different studios. But hopefully with Atari's pull, they can figure more of that out. So.
Well, while you're talking about trailers, did you guys watch the Borderlands movie trailer?
Yes.
I did, but I watched it when it first was released, and I'm kind of fuzzy on it now.
All right. Zach, did you see it?
Yeah, I watched it.
What are your thoughts? Because I know you're the one that does not like humor like game.
It looks like Borderlands,
yeah,
which I think is the idea, right? So,
yeah.
For shout out to the Borderlands fans. I think the cast is like weirdly high profile for Borderlands.
Crazy high profile. It's just I feel like they have the right people if they can just kind of stick the landing with the with the story and the writing and everything else. Like maybe it'll be fantastic. It could be amazing.
Right.
But
I was pleasantly surprised that Kevin Hart does appear to be playing the straight man.
Mm-hmm.
Which is what Roland's role was in the original game, so that checks out. And it was kind of weird seeing Cate Blanchett in Lilith cosplay.
Does that woman age?
I don't think so. No.
Probably
with lots of money, she doesn't age.
Yeah.
But I think most surprising was Jack Black is just so charming and likable that I didn't hate Claptrap in this trailer.
Mm-hmm.
But
his voice isn't quite as high pitch as in the games.
There's a young girl in this in the trailer. I can't remember her name, and I can't remember her name.
Ariana Greenblatt.
Maybe it is. She was in she was in
Barbie.
Love and Monsters. She was the younger girl in oh my gosh, she was in a bunch of stuff. I'm just gonna look it up. Keep talking. But she's great. Okay. She's like super good. She's gonna be like a new.
You think she's a rising star?
She is a rising star. She absolutely is.
Are you talking about the one that plays Tiny Tina?
Yes.
Is that Tiny
She
Tina?
was in Barbie,
Mhm.
wasn't she?
Yeah, she was also in Barbie.
Yeah, she was the daughter of America Ferrera's character.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was my one. She's a fine actress. I'm not saying otherwise, but it just did not seem properly cast for Tiny Tina.
I didn't think it was Tiny Tina because
Yeah.
Tiny Tina is one of the worst video game characters in history.
She's Minnow.
So
No, she's not.
she is not. Tiny
Never
Tina?
mind. Different person. I actually don't know.
Oh.
I actually don't
Okay.
know.
No, I guess
Nope,
she
she's
is
definitely Tiny Tina. I just looked it up. She's definitely Tiny Tina. That's
well,
her.
that's good. Well, yeah, because Tiny Tina is insufferable and makes me want to punt my console across the room. So it's nice that she's somewhat endearing here.
She played young Ahsoka in the new Ahsoka series. She was in 65, that dinosaur movie that came out on
Oh,
Netflix
okay.
a while ago.
Oh,
I
yeah.
didn't see that.
she's-
I heard
but
bad things about that one.
It's
Me
not
and my
great.
dad had fun watching that.
It's fun.
Honestly,
It's fun.
it's cheesy, but
It's super cheesy, but it's fun. But she's
Yeah.
really good. So I hope she does well with this. But yeah,
She's-
high profile list of people, famous
She's
people.
doing
Jamie Lee
a
Curtis.
remarkable job of picking things I haven't seen to be in.
The other trailer I wanted to mention is Epic Mickey.
Wait, Scott, what did you think of the Borderlands trailer?
I was pleasantly surprised, man. I thought it looked very much like Borderlands. Like they've got the tone down very well. The humor is a little bit more movie humor
Mhm.
than video game humor, which I don't even know what that means. It just like
but you feel it in your bones, huh?
Yeah, I really can't describe it, but I can't decide if I like Kate Blanchett as Lilith. I really don't, because the hair seems so over exaggerated and so large, and going looking at Lilith in the game, that's what it looks like. It
Right,
just,
exactly, yeah.
I don't know why it looks odd to me on a real person. It's just, but and like I went into this going, Kate Blanchett is too old for Lilith, but they've pulled it off. They've made her look like she's not 60 or however old Kate Blanchett is. Shut my mouth if I'm over
I
exaggerating
was
her
gonna say,
age.
I'm not commenting on this.
Yeah,
I'm fairly
No way.
certain she's in her late 50s. So
late 50s. So
Galadriel herself.
she looks fantastic. So I'm stoked. I found myself getting a little annoyed with how long they lingered on Claptrap in the trailer, with the whole "I'm peeing coins" bit.
Well, he's a character you can make all your merchandise out of. So,
Sure.
You gotta,
Yeah.
you gotta push that guy.
That's a good point. But I mean, I'm definitely going to see it. There's no way I'm not going to see this in the theater, just out of morbid curiosity, if nothing else. But I know some people have some trepidation about Eli Roth as the director, but I also read, I think Aaron Peterson sent me an article that they have another director whose name is escaping me that has actually gone through and done some reshoots. He said something about it,
Well, and apparently there are extensive reshoots as well.
Right.
That's not
So
a
it's
good
not-
sign, by the way.
Typically
Well-
not.
We'll see.
I mean, it's a lot of it is Eli Roth, like,
He doesn't
he's not the
scream
best
action comedy guy.
no.
So I
Not
could
at all.
see how maybe his version of the movie wasn't Borderlands enough.
right.
All I'm
Tim Miller.
seeing-
Tim Miller is the director that's done some reshoots.
Oh, the Deadpool
Okay.
guy.
Yeah. So, and that tone goes great with Borderlands, in my opinion.
Sure,
So,
definitely, yeah.
There's also another additional director, but I've never heard of this guy. And his other movies I've never heard of, Noon or Saudi. He is also an additional director. So apparently there are 3 people who have directed this film.
That sounds bad. Anyway, I'll see it. Sure. For the curiosity.
all right, going back to Epic Mickey. I never played the original, so I'm actually really stoked about this because even though I did just get a Wii a couple months ago, so I can actually go play that game now if I wanted to. I'd rather play it on Xbox.
I'm with you on Epic Mickey. I was actually kind of excited for that game when it was coming out, and I bought it on the Wii, but I could not deal with the lack of camera control. It felt like because it was a 3D platformer. It felt like I needed camera control,
Mhm.
Yeah.
and it was but this should fix that problem.
And then the Plucky Squire trailer
Yeah.
just reminded me of how much I'm looking forward to that game. It just looks
Just
so
looks so
charming.
unique. Yeah, like it looks
Yeah.
like nothing else out there.
All right, Zach, what story do you want to talk about, man?
Well, I guess let's just keep the trailer train rolling and choo 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 down to the Nintendo Direct station.
Toot, fools.
That was great.
Dude, I mean, a lot of announcements here. I appreciate that they set the expectations beforehand and let you know that it was just third party partners, first half of the year stuff, which I always think is important. I don't know about you guys, but there was some good stuff here.
There was some good stuff.
Penny's big breakaway shadow dropping kind of broke my heart because I really looking forward to that game, but this is a stupid release date.
Yeah.
I hope it did well. I'm sure people are playing, or everybody that plays it seems to like it. I've heard it's got real 3D Sonic energy, which is music to my ears. But I just don't have any time for it right now. But I really want to play it. I think it looks very, very good.
Pepper Grinder caught my eye.
Pepper Grinder should be good. That's that Devolver Jam. They've been showing trailers for that for a while. Did that shadow drop too, or is that coming?
I don't think it.
Okay.
I think it's been a Steam Next Fest game.
Oh yeah.
So I don't remember if there was an actual release date for that one, but
I thought a Ranger looked cool. Do you guys remember a Ranger, a role playing adventure? Do you remember which one this was? It looks like a sliding puzzle, but it's an RPG.
Oh yeah.
Really neat idea.
It's a clever idea.
Could be cool. Don't know, but yeah.
Are you guys going to get either Xbox Game Studio Nintendo Switch release, Grounded or Pentiment?
I didn't get it on Xbox. So,
I mean, they're still on Game Pass on Xbox, so I don't think I'm gonna splurge on the Switch version.
Understood. I thought I guess Hi-Fi Rush probably isn't coming just because it couldn't keep up the 60 frames per second that you need for that game.
Oh,
so,
really?
Since it's rhythm based, right?
Right.
You can't risk frame drops, but
or it's coming
that would be
later.
my assumption. Yeah, it's got to be coming to the Switch 2 or something. Would be my guess.
Am I the only one that was excited for the new Nintendo Switch Online games?
Heck no, that is awesome. Freaking massive rare drop. That's so cool. Like I love it.
Well,
Blast Core on
I love Blast Core so much.
A fun, super fun game.
For a hot second, I thought the whole Rare Replay was coming over to Switch. Would have been pretty sick.
Yeah. Battletoads and Battlemaniacs is not a game I expected to come to Nintendo Switch Online.
I've not played that. I don't know that one. Like I haven't played. I played the original Battletoads, but I've not played that. So
it's not nearly as brutal as the original Battletoads. It's actually doable, and they lean into the hands getting larger when you punch, and like when he does a headbutt, it just like ram horns come out of his head and stuff like that. Like they lean into that. There's a goofy like mini game where you're like collecting bowling pins and stuff like that. It sounds so stupid. But I really enjoyed that one. I played that one a lot when I was a kid. But and RC Pro-Am, I played that so much when I was a kid, but I remember getting very frustrated with it because it gets stupid hard. But it was we don't get racers with that perspective.
And great controls. Like great
really
control, isometric, and one of the best, shortest soundtracks ever. I think the entire soundtrack is under 3 minutes if you like put all the songs in order. But they're all great. Yeah, they're all great. All the tunes are great in that game. David
I played Snake, Rattle, and Roll. Somebody was talking about that on our Discord server.
It's good. It's cool. All these are cool.
And then Killer Instinct. I remember Killer Instinct was... do you guys remember when Nintendo put out those VHS tapes when they were trying to sell Donkey Kong Country?
Mm-hmm.
And then at the very end of it, they just did a teaser for Killer Instinct. They played this whole thing where like they accidentally walked into the wrong room at Nintendo headquarters and they saw some people playing Killer Instinct on the screen, and it was like an insane teaser. And
God, that's so fun.
Mm-hmm.
I know.
Yeah.
I miss that kind of stuff, but I was never any good at Killer Instinct. I was more of a Street Fighter guy. That was a very combo driven game.
No, it was a combo driven game.
Combo.
Yeah. Well, speaking of games we played as kids, Star Wars Battlefront coming back. Pretty excited about that, man. And with online multiplayer. Oh, dude, EA's lucky this didn't come out sooner, man. Who would play those new ones if these were available?
Right.
Dude, these games are absolute bangers, and the way like you can like slowly unlock your way towards being a Jedi and a Mash or whatever, and then when they show up, you just know you're screwed if you're just a regular soldier. Oh, what fun memories! Can't wait to play those games.
Is that a balanced game? Like it's not like we're like, oh, I've been playing it for the past 4 months, I have an advantage over everybody else. Like, does everybody start out on the same even?
Right? Yeah. There's no like. This is pre-modern warfare, so you're not leveling up and getting better gear and totally destroying noobs with your sick auto shotgun, or anything like that.
Right.
It's just cool Star Wars Battlefront action.
I'm surprised it's taken this long for this one to be revived, because I remember people just absolutely adoring both of those games.
It had to be some kind of EA block on the Battlefront name.
Oh, yeah.
While they had the exclusive Star Wars license, that's the only thing I could think of. Because you're right, these would be you would pick these before you would bring back Episode 1 Pod Racer,
right?
Yeah, but we got that.
I didn't think anybody liked that game. I guess you did, but
yeah, that game. What are you talking about? Everybody loves that game.
I didn't like that game.
You're crazy. But shout out to Aspire for continuing to preserve Star Wars video game history.
Yeah, it's cool.
If only we got to get Shadows of the Empire. Get a nice
I would buy
remaster
that
of
in
that.
a heartbeat, man.
Wouldn't that be awesome?
Those controls on 64 are horrible. They're awful. If I could play that with just normal twin sticks, that'd be amazing.
Oh, dude, man, that game would be broken if you could aim.
Right?
You'd be mowing everybody down.
I remember even the space parts. What was the name of his ship?
Oh, the
Dash Rendar's ship.
Yes, the Wave Rider, right?
Wave Rider?
Am I wrong?
Outrider.
Outrider.
Yeah.
Yes, we got there.
It was like a Wish.com Millennium Falcon, but it was still pretty cool.
He's a Wish.com Han Solo.
Yeah. I did miss the trailer for Contra Operation Gulaga. Is that looked like a fun Contra game or traditional Contra game? What is that?
It looks like an old school Contra game. So
I'd be down for some new Contra.
100%.
Yeah, especially if they had the soundtrack from some of the same music.
Yeah, I
from the
wonder
original
who's
game.
doing that. I don't know who's doing that. Oh no, it was announced. So the composers are Yuko Komiyama, who worked on Mega Man X7, a bunch of Mega Man X games, some Monster Hunter stuff, and then Noriko Hibino, who worked on a bunch of the Metal Gear games.
There you go.
Bayonetta 2, Bayonetta 1. So fam, old school composers coming to do some Contra music. So that'll be cool to see.
Nice.
I saw that in my email somewhere. I was like, oh, that's relevant. Okay. Carrying on.
Okay.
All right. Anything else?
Yeah, I wanted to give a quick note to Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance, only because SMT 5 was a Switch exclusive, but this Vengeance re-release with added content and stuff is coming to PlayStation, Xbox as well.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, this one was the game that stood out to me because I loved SMT 4. Never played 5 just because I didn't have time. So this is very tempting to me.
The straight up SMT games are hard as hell.
I discovered that playing 4, and I had the 3DS one that came with the book that tried to help you out.
Right, for us terrible Westerners who don't know how to play
I never
hard games.
played an SMT game, so at first I'm like, oh, this is hard. I'm like, let me refer to the book. I'm like, okay, thank you.
What kind of games are there? Are they turn-based RPGs?
They're what Persona is spun off of.
Oh, okay.
So you see a lot of, kind of Persona reminiscent stuff, but they're a lot darker and way more challenging than Persona.
Right. They're emo Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
Yeah. So that's how I would describe them.
Gotcha. Well, let's go ahead and move on. Alyssa, how about you? Anything, any of these news stories stand out to you? Anything left?
Well, I'm not going to talk about the sports stuff. I'm sorry. I can't do it. My soul will not let me.
All right.
I guess we'll talk about the games that have arrived on Game Pass and are coming soon. So, by the time you hear the podcast, you can play these games, which are Tales of Arise and Return to Grace, which are on console, cloud, and PC. Dead Island 2, which is console only. Bluey
that was
the video
a surprise. Nobody even talked about that. Dead Island 2 just all
of
a sudden is on.
No one even mentioned it was going to be on Game Pass.
Yeah.
But it's only on console, so if you're a PC gamer, you're out of luck on that one. But the one everyone wants to play is Bluey the video game. That's what everyone has been waiting for.
I think you'd be surprised how many people actually want to play that game.
I know. I hear so many people say that show's actually fun to watch, adults say that.
Right.
So I actually am kind of intrigued. Maneater returns to Game Pass.
The Shark
on-
PG.
Shark.
That's a fun game.
I never got to play it, so maybe I will this time since it's back. And
pretty
Madden
hilarious.
NFL 24, which is only available on the cloud.
Weird.
Indivisible
Very.
also is returning to Game Pass on cloud, console, and PC. The day after this podcast comes out, you can play Space Engineers on console, cloud, or PC. And on March 5th, Warhammer 40,000 Bolt Gun comes to console, cloud, and PC, which I highly recommend that game.
Yeah, I
It is a
remember you-
blast.
I remember you talking
Literally.
about loving Bolt Gun, so I'll have to give that
Yeah.
a shot.
I'm
Yeah,
definitely
well-
going to give that one a shot.
Yeah, that sounds like that's a great Game Pass ad, in my opinion.
Oh, for
That is
sure,
a
yeah.
good timing for me with Madden coming out, even though it's cloud. On my other podcast, the Packers fan podcast, we had my co-host and I had a wager, and whoever lost the wager, the idea was we're going to play a game of Madden against each other online and stream it for our community. And neither of us own Madden, so this is going to work out great because now we can just do it on the stream. Anyway, the loser has to.
I got a
Go
copy of Madden NFL 13 I could lend you.
Yeah. Well, this is easier.
Fair enough.
Good luck
no,
waiting
The loser has to
15 minutes to play it on the cloud. Sorry.
Yeah, right.
Hot take, real quick.
Anyway, the loser of our wager has to play as the Bears, and
Oh.
I get to play as Green Bay, and he's never played Madden before, so I mean I'm not really good at Madden, but I play video games and I've played a little bit of Madden, so I think it should be no contest, but it'll be fun for our listeners to see that, and like I said, perfect timing. So.
Wow.
All right, well, let's go ahead and move on and talk about Patreon very quickly. If you are listening to the show, obviously it is a free show, but we do offer some bonus content for our Patreon subscribers because we do need some help supporting it because it is independently funded, which means we pay for all of the hosting and everything all on our own. And if you head to patreon.com/thegocast, there are a bunch of tiers. The $1 tier gets you access to the episode a day earlier than everybody else. The $3 tier gets you an extra bonus episode, and the $5 tier gets you 2 bonus episodes, and we have a lot of fun with them. We're actually going to be recording one of them right after this episode. Right now, what you can download is our Desert Islands Games episode, where Zach and I were interviewed by Paul Hine from the community. Had a really good time. It was our 10th time doing that topic, and we actually did it ourselves instead of bringing on a listener. Also, our Meet the Patrons episode with Paul Hine and Tim Paulin was a blast. I had a great time talking with those guys, learning what games they've been playing, and just get to know them a little bit. Upcoming episodes, Zach, Alyssa, and I are going to be recording a Peace of Mind episode. That is where we just kind of talk about anything that's on our minds. We kind of each bring to the table a random question that's not video game related. It's usually a little PG-13.
It's usually R-rated, I believe.
Yeah. It's PG-13R, maybe even further. So if you prefer the after dark content, that is a place to go. Also, Zach and I are planning to do a Break the Seal episode sometime in the future. I'm in the midst of trying to finish Sands of Time, Prince of Persia Sands of Time, and I'm trying to convince him to play the Lone Ranger on the NES because, he loves his Westerns. And we're going to be doing a Meet the Patrons episode also with my Borderlands crew. Unfortunately, like I said, one of them was sick this past weekend, so we could not do that. But if any of that content interests you, we really could use the support, and we do appreciate it. Head over to patreon.com/thegocast to sign up today. With that, let's go ahead and jump into the new games we've been playing. All right, Zach, tell us what are the new trailers that you and I can be avoiding this week?
Sure. Starts off with Euphoria: The Saga 2 comes to PS5, Xbox Series consoles, Switch, and PC March 1st. The Mobius Machine comes to PS5, Xbox Series consoles, and PC March 1st.
It's Mobin time.
No, so close. You're so close to being hip. Unlife comes off of PC and onto every console available March 1st. The Thaumaturge, which was supposed to come out like last week or the week before, got hit with a very last minute delay till March 4th, though they assure us it's actually going to release on PC this time on March 4th. I assume game of the week here, Plumbers Don't Wear Ties Definitive Edition. Comes to all consoles and PC March 5th. Classified France 44 is a sort of a tactics game set during World War II. PS5, Xbox Series consoles, and PC March 5th. The Outlast Trials, which I cannot figure out what kind of game this is.
It's
I don't
multiplayer,
know.
right?
The trailer gave off Saw vibes, but I know it's Is it multiplayer?
It's multiplayer. It's Outlast
Yeah.
is a horror series.
Right.
Yeah, I've
combatless.
played some of the Outlast games.
Yeah, they're rough.
But
They're hard.
I don't really.
It was
I guess I
scary.
just don't-
But I don't
Yes.
know. I
How
hear
does that work?
I heard it's fun.
with friends?
I heard it's fun. I don't know, but I don't know
Alright.
if I don't know. But we'll find
Okay.
out.
Well, yeah, you're right. We could find out on PS5, PS4, Xbox Series consoles, Xbox One, and PC March 5th. As Dusk Falls, a former Xbox exclusive, makes its way over to PlayStation on PS5 and PS4 March 7th. Then Snufkin Melody of Moomin Valley. It's got melody right in the title, so obviously I had to put it on here for our musical guest. Coming to Switch and PC March 7th.
That is a name of a game, isn't it?
Snufkin Melody?
It's like someone was just wasted and like just said a game name.
Just hit that
Snufkin
keyboard.
Well, it's from a
Melody of Moon
franchise.
Valley.
I cannot think of the country, but the Moomins are huge
Oh,
in
yeah?
that specific country.
Oh, that's cool.
So
Oh,
I just learned something.
all right. Well, what about you, Scott? What are you intrigued here on this list?
Nothing. I will say, unless you like movies like The Room, or the movies that are notoriously terrible, they're so bad it's kind of entertaining, then I would recommend playing Plumbers Don't Wear Ties. Otherwise, do not believe the hype. This is a terrible, terrible excuse of a video game, and the fact that it is actually being released in broadly like this just does not make any sense to me.
Well, it's got a bunch of documentary feature as well, where they kind of talk about how terrible it is. They have some of the original actors are coming back, and
See, that's
It
a little
seems-
more interesting.
it seems like everybody is well aware of how terrible this is. And then
Okay.
I know they even have a angry video game nerd who blew this game up on YouTube many years ago.
hmm
Is involved. So I mean, it's kind of a historical artifact, and also, you can play the very awful video game as well if you want.
It's barely a game. It's not even a game. Like,
It's slideshow. It's like a PowerPoint presentation.
well, the thing starts with like video, like it's full motion video
Yeah.
for about 2-3 minutes, and then the rest of the game is just still frames, like in a slideshow, like you said, yeah. And choose some dialogue, and some things happen. But
Some
Yeah.
sexy things.
my week is going to be consumed with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I'm actually considering taking Thursday off from work to
Yeah.
get started on it, because it's been a long week, long weekend, and I'm going to be exhausted, and I could use a mental health day. So why not go ahead and take that mental health day when one of my most anticipated games of the year is releasing?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm going to be sick the Monday after.
Yeah.
It comes out. Yeah, can already feel it. What about you, Alyssa? Are any of these games on this list appealing to you?
not really. I'm going to focus on my backlog. I do need to finish several games, so I need to focus on those. But I do recommend playing As Dusk Falls if you were not able to play it on Xbox, because I played it when it came out. Was that last year? Or not last year, but the year before last. Fantastic. Great game. So if you're a PlayStation gamer and we're not able to play it on Xbox, I do recommend that. But I'm going to skip the games and focus on what I have.
There you go.
Sure. And then Grant, our illustrious guest, are any of these games calling to you?
I illustriously will probably do some research on the Outlast trials to see what's up.
I thought you were going to say Snufkin.
No, Moomin Valley. I love big Moomins, but I don't know if I'm going to play this game.
Great.
I will
I
say
like big boomins, and I cannot lie.
Moomins. Boom.
Moomins.
That's what he
Bro.
It's
calls-
Come on.
Moomins.
Come on,
Sorry.
Scott
You
Clark.
turned it
Slap-
dirty, Scott.
Slap some respect on the name.
I will say I love The Room. I love Neil Breen films, but like this Plumbers Don't Wear Ties thing, I watched this trailer and they know it's bad. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
like that's not how that works. So probably won't be playing that, but I am curious about that kind of thing. Don't know
Well,
if
I
I'll be spending
presume when
money
they
on
were
it.
making it, somebody must have thought it was good, right?
Someone was earnest about it. I don't know. I'm
I
curious.
have to assume.
We'll see.
Maybe Neil Breen was a producer.
Maybe he was.
We actually did a Patreon episode on that game. CB
yeah.
and I did, back when he sat me down and made me play through the whole thing. And on the original hardware, like he's got the original game. What was it? Panasonic or 3DO or something like that.
Mm.
It
Ooh,
was,
3DO sounds right.
that was an experience, but never again will I play that game.
Yeah.
Never again. I played Night Trap before I played that.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Rough.
I think as for me, if I had to pick a game here, it'd probably be Classified France 44. Just because the it's kind of like doing the XCOM thing where you have a countdown and you're doing missions to clear the way, but instead of trying to clear the way for an alien invasion, it's for the D-Day invasion. That seems kind of like a fun spin, but I think realistically there's 100 other tactics games I would want to play first.
Right.
And let's be honest, it's all about Final Fantasy VII this week.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna hang out at the Gold Sauce. I want to whatever is going on in the footage they released of Tifa and Aerith on the beach. I just kind of want to be there for about 40 hours. That sounds good to me.
So this game is supposed to be 60 to 80 hours, but really it's about 30. It's just that Zach spent all that time on the beach with Tifa and Aerith.
Yeah, I just I didn't know how to progress. So sorry.
All right. Grant, you had the audacity to come on my own podcast and talk about a pinball game that I have not yet played.
Snooze, you lose, Scott Clark.
I know. I actually had an opportunity to get a code for this game, and I turned it down because I had too much going on and I didn't have time to write a review. So tell me what I missed out, because I never played System Shock. I actually bought the System Shock remake on PC, and I haven't started it yet. So I wouldn't have known any of the references or anything, but tell me about this one.
Yeah, I mean, System Shock, I've played a little bit of 2, the original, and I have not played the remake, but I hear it's quite good. But yeah, System Shock is this kind of space horror franchise people are familiar with. It's inspired a lot of things, but Zen has been picking up these game licenses now to do their pinball machines out of. They did Doom, they did Crypt of the Necrodancer, they're kind of dipping their, and they've even done board games. They did Exploding Kittens, they did Gloomhaven. So they're getting into stuff that isn't just movies, which I think is fun. System Shock is scary as hell, and this pinball machine kind of reflects that. It's released on the Pinball M platform, which is their kind of mature platform. They have pinball effects, but they did Pinball M because they wanted to do some tables like Chucky, and pretty soon they're going to be doing Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So they wanted like an M-rated platform so they could put games there and not jeopardize the rating of their original platform, which I think is probably a good idea. So
I thought this one was on both, though. I thought this wasn't just on M.
I don't know what the difference is between the two, but if you buy the table, you get it on both platforms,
nice.
Which is cool. But yeah, it absolutely captures the vibe of System Shock. It's space horror. The table itself is I find it to be a pretty friendly table. One of the things that I noticed about the Pinball M tables is there were some pretty mean shots. A lot of coming down ramps, going right down the center, or out lanes that were kind of hungry. This table is a lot more friendly. A lot of times I'll boot up a table and go into practice mode just because you can play for an hour without losing your ball, just to kind of experiment and see what the modes are like. I kind of left that pretty quickly and just started playing the 3-ball games. Every shot has a very unique mode associated with it, so you might be fighting some bad guys. There's this really cool, it's hard to describe, it's the spiral that goes up. So you start at the bottom and spin up, and it's like an ice cream cone. Imagine like a spiral that gets smaller towards the top. Every time you go around the spiral, there's another flipper to hit it up another spiral, and there's different things on each of those levels. If you get to the very top, there's a robot you can destroy that does like some multiplier stuff. But if you shoot it to the very top ramp, it basically opens up this breakout style minigame. And a lot of the video modes they've done more recently I haven't really enjoyed, but this one is literally breakout, fighting little digital aliens on a grid, which is super fun. The bumpers, like the pop bumpers, are actually these containers that will blow up. You can make them explode, which is super fun. It's not super hard to get into multi-ball. There's a thing they'll do sometimes where if you drain out in the middle of a mode, you lose all your progress. You have to start over. This table doesn't really do that. So I like
that when tables do that.
Yeah, when you sort of maintain progress. So yeah, it's a really creative table. There are really strange shots. There's flippers in really odd positions that do things you don't normally see in tables. But yeah, I really like it. I haven't spent a ton of time with it, but I'm enjoying it, and I like the space horror thing too. So that kind of fits. That's a genre I dig on.
Is it using audio like listed from the original game? I wouldn't know because I didn't play it.
I don't know, and I don't know because it's really good. I don't know if showed in the That's the female voice you hear. That's sort of the big bad in System Shock. I don't know if they're lifted from the game, but it's all very part of the table. It doesn't feel like you can't tell that it's ripped from the game if it is. But if they have done it on their own, they did a very good job recreating her. It all feels very seamless. So I'm not sure, but there are tons of call outs from her. She's still scary as hell. And I haven't gotten into like wizard modes or anything, but it's a great table, and I think it's like $5.56 or something. And there are different kind of meta games in Pinball FX and Pinball M. Like in Pinball M, as you complete these missions, you unlock this little different sort of ornaments in this room. There's a room for the table, and you knock a hole in the wall, there's a window, or there's like a character, you sort of fill out the room. So it has all those features too, and you can play it on either platform you want. But yeah, it's real good. It's like not mean, easy to play, not too difficult to understand. The shots feel really, really good. So I'm into this one.
So you recommend me starting there or actually playing the actual System Shock remake first?
They're so different, man. I mean,
No, I know.
you might get more out of like what little lore there is in the table if you played the System Shock remake. But they're just so different. You can see a lot of this table in about 30 minutes. I just think if you're looking for a pinball game and you like the space horror thing, this would be a really good one to pick up, and you're not going to spoil anything from the game if you decide
Well,
to do
you
that
sold me.
first.
I'm going to have to pick this up now.
It's fun. Let me know what you think.
Awesome.
What do you mean he sold you? All he had to do was say, it's a pinball table.
It's a
Yeah.
pinball
That's true.
table.
That's true. Yeah, I didn't pick it up. I could have, like I said, there's so much. Look, we talked about this year being like kind of a drought, or there's just nothing big coming out, and yet here I am, just overloaded with games. It's like, oh, nothing new's coming out. I'm just going to pick up these old games, and oh yeah, there's no time to play them.
Who the hell said nothing's coming out?
Well, not compared to last year. Like there's not.
I mean, nothing. It doesn't. Not a lot's coming out after March, seemingly.
Right.
But,
Yeah.
I mean, February is out of control.
It is, yeah.
Very much so. All right, got a couple reviews to share with you guys. I sat down with Mark, who stopped by to talk about 2 games that he's reviewing for us. We're going to check those out right now. Well, hello, Mark. How are you doing, sir?
Hey, I'm great. It's a Saturday. I can't complain.
Absolutely, man. You're becoming quite a regular here. You're reviewing all kinds of games.
I can't help it. These are great games. Most of them are smaller, so I get through them pretty quickly. It's great. A lot of fun.
Yeah. I wish I could pick shorter games, but I tend to do ones that are time sinks, and it takes me forever. But let's start by talking about this game you're playing called 64. It comes from a developer by the name of Oleg Danilov. The publisher is Playsaurus, and it was provided to us by Jesus Fabre. He's my PR contact over there. So I watched this trailer. It looks like a management sim game, but I cannot make heads or tails of what you're supposed to do or what the object of this game is. Can you give us a description of what you do in 64?
Well, it is a management sim, and you start off not knowing where you are, not knowing who you are. You have one contact who is communicating to you through text. You find out he doesn't know who he is either. And then you just break apart the blocks. You see a machine. You click on the machine, it builds the blocks. You use your mouse, you tap on them until they break, and you collect the broken parts as elements. And then you just keep on rebuilding the blocks, breaking them apart, collecting them. And as you move along, new machines open up, ones that make the blocks easier to break, another one that'll break them automatically. And then at that point, you're just making sure that you're fueling with these elements, fueling these new machines so that they're doing the stuff automatically.
So this is like 2-part. It's like there's a machine already there. You're breaking it down and then rebuilding it in a specific way.
The machine is building the blocks, and you're breaking the blocks, and then you re-trigger the machine to build new blocks.
Boy, I think I might be too dumb for this game.
I just mentioned a moment ago that I pick smaller games, and that works great. But this one is not a small game. This one is.
Well, it's an
long.
interesting concept because it's like this isometric view.
Yep.
It's got almost like a Sim City, like the newer Sim Cities, and but again with the trailer I couldn't really see the objective. How do you know what you're supposed to do?
You don't. You trial and error.
Oh.
As you build the new machines, you're hoping you're putting them in the right place. The friend with the text message is of no help whatsoever. He's there just to At first I thought he was my link to reality. You come to find out he's not really part of reality either, I think. It's really confusing. It's without spoiling a whole heck of a lot about it, you are just there on instinct and hoping that you're doing the right thing. The game does not hold your hand one single iota.
Lots of experimentation and trial and error, huh?
Trial and error, absolutely. And I told you earlier before we started recording, I actually took a couple hours in. I started over because I knew I was doing it wrong, and I thought I could get through it a little bit faster. Not much faster in the long run, but it was a little bit faster. You're just hoping that you're doing it right.
I like that idea of there being like a mystery behind a game like this, though. That seems like a cool concept because, like you said, there's these text messages that pop up. So there's an element of story, but no, you haven't finished it yet. So you don't know if there's any like payoff on that yet.
I'm not sure. I'm hedging my bets. I'm thinking it might be like a Big Bang kind of storyline, like the beginning of the universe. I'm thinking it's just somebody having an existential crisis and he's broken down to a bare minimum core, and you're restarting your life over again. I'm just guessing at this point.
Okay.
I just don't know if I want to put in the amount of time into it to find out, because at first I was sold. That first 5-6 hours, I was loving it. I didn't even mind the constant tapping, breaking the blocks apart, because I was bought in. I wanted to find out. But the longer I play it, the longer I think that this is a very, very, very long game.
Okay. No, I know you like the shorter games, but some people do like longer ones. Is this one that you think people will enjoy, or
if they like the management sim aspect, they don't mind a bit of grinding, because you will grind. There's times where I was 2 hours between progress, where I was just doing the same thing for 2 hours straight before I could unlock the next machine and move on to the next step. If they have the patience for that, I think this is a fantastic game. I'm pretty sure it was an independent developer, or maybe even a guy all by himself. It's unique. I'd never played anything like that, even though, like you said, it's kind of similar to SimCity with the sim management and the isometric view. It could be somebody's game of the year. For me, I got a little bit lost in the grind.
Fair enough. Well, let's talk about the other game that you've been playing. It is called Pixel Cross Story of Seasons, and Pixel is spelled Piczle. And I've played games like this. What do you call them? Nonograms?
Nonograms, nonograms.
Nonograms.
Yeah, there's been previous games on Nintendo. I think Picross, Picross.
Picross, yeah, that's the ones I've played, and there's been some other ones, but this one is centered around Story of Seasons, which is a farming sim game that I know CB likes a lot. So what sets this one apart from other games of this style?
Oh, nothing at all. But I love it.
Oh, okay. You love it. Okay.
Nonograms to me are the perfect puzzle. They keep my brain functioning. It's what I do every morning. I have an app on my phone where I'll do 1 or 2 of them every day, just kind of get my brain started, start my day.
Nice.
These are my favorite kind of puzzles. So this game was meant for me. But that's all it is just nonograms. And it's probably a solid 12 to 15 hours worth of these puzzles that you'd have to get through to finish the game, to finish all the puzzles. There's just so much content. But that's all it is. The Story of the Seasons with the farm is background. You have no interaction with them. There's no progress for the farm. It's all being done on its own. You finishing these puzzles helps them not a single bit.
Gotcha.
So
now you're playing this one on Switch, right?
Yes, and it was also on Steam. But it feels like a Nintendo game through and through. The graphics, the music, it feels Nintendo-esque very much.
Gotcha. Now, I want to ask, like, how are you playing this one? Because, when I play Switch games, I rarely use touch controls, but this is a game that I feel like would benefit from touching the screen. Are you doing that, or are you docking it, or are you even playing handheld and using the joysticks?
I'm playing mostly handheld with the joysticks. Some of these puzzles, so in the past, my puzzles that I play at home on my phone app are no more than 15 by 15, so 15 squares across, 15 squares down.
Sure.
These go 25 to 25, 25 by 20. These are giant
Holy
puzzles.
Cow.
They don't render perfectly. They're very tiny boxes when you're handheld, so I have had to dock it a couple of times just so I could see it better. You don't need to, though. I mean, somebody with better eyes than mine could easily play it with just handheld Switch, but I enjoy docking it a little bit for these larger puzzles. It made it a little bit easier for me.
Very cool. So this sounds like if you like this style of puzzle, this is a great addition.
Heck yeah.
Just don't expect a whole lot of extra content like story of seasons type stuff.
Yeah, they have an almanac where you are unlocking other storylines, and I haven't read through the almanac yet because I'm just going to wait until I'm done and just read through all of them because there's characters that you are unlocking, I guess. Not really unlocking, just you're unlocking their biography when you complete their puzzle.
Okay. Again, that is Pixel Cross Story of Seasons. This is from developer Score Studios, and the publisher is Rainy Frog. And shout out to PR Hound for hooking you up with a copy of that so we can check it out. Mark, as always, it is a pleasure to talk with you, man. Thanks so much for checking these out and stopping by to talk about them.
Heck yeah, looking forward to the next one.
Awesome, man. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, Scott.
Thanks so much, Mark. Always a pleasure to hear from you, man. I want to remind everybody very quickly before we get to our topic about our ways that you can interact with our community. First off, facebook.com/groups/the GoCast. I try to keep that updated with any relevant news, all of our episodes, and there's lots of good conversations going on over there. Also, as I mentioned at the top of the show, our Discord server is live. There is a link in the show notes. Please click on it and join the community. We'd love to have you. If you get a chance, drop us a review on Apple Podcasts. It helps us get the word out about the show. And lastly, our website, thegamingoutsider.com. That's where you can find all of our episodes as well as all of our written content. Again, thegamingoutsider.com. Let's go ahead now and jump into this week's From the Outside In topic. We are very lucky to have Grant Henry from Stemmage and Metroid Metal here to join our discussion about music and games. Grant, you are obviously deeply entrenched in the video games and music industry. So can you tell our listeners a little bit about what you do, both directly in actual games and tangentially for other entertainment? Because some people may not have heard of the famous Grant Henry before, so let them know what you do, man.
Well, if they haven't heard of me, it's because I'm not that famous, Scott. That's
you got a Wikipedia page?
I do have a Wikipedia page. That's true. So I guess that's good enough to get on a podcast and talk about. But no, my whole thing. I've been band hopping forever, but I got into this video game remix stuff. I started the Metroid Metal project back in 2003, and Scott, that's how we got in touch and kept up.
21 years ago.
20, yeah, almost 21 years ago. Which is thanks for that. So yeah, so
legal drinking age.
Let me tell you. Oh yeah, my project can drink now. That's great. And then I just ended up. I think what's happened a lot in the video game remix scene is if the people that have been doing it for a really long time, people have sort of segued into doing actual music for games. They're obviously inspired by a lot of those types of music. Their production chops have gotten better, and they've just slid into indie games doing things. I started getting hired to do some session guitar work. I did some work on Steven Universe. I did some work on Rogue Legacy, little projects where I was just starting to get work, and so I ended up going all in. I was doing web work and decided to just switch over and try to do music full time, and it's actually working. So I'm a full time composer, sound designer, session guitar person, working on a number of indie games and some TV and some film stuff. So it's all mostly indie stuff. The biggest game I've probably done is the one it's called Hextech Mayhem. It's a League of Legends spinoff for the champion named Ziggs. He's this little Yordle cat dude that throws bombs. Had to write him a theme song, and we'd made this musical rhythm platformer game. I worked on the latest Bubsy game. I worked on a game with Zach Gage called Card of Darkness. I did a track for the most recent Rogue Legacy, and I've started doing and guitar in a number of games. I did the guitar in the theme song for Chia, which came out last year. I've been doing.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I played that game.
It's my acoustic in the theme of that game. So I've just made a lot of buddies and gotten in with people that are doing this and keep doing it. I finished a short film last year. So I'm doing lots of just tangent, and I did some music for the Devolver Digital E3 showcases. So I've done stuff for games and then stuff on the side of games for a while now, and I'm continuing to do it. So
sounds like
you're so incredibly cool.
Oh, you're incredible. Well, thank you, and you're incredibly cool.
He's effortlessly cool, I always say.
Well, hey,
That's true as well.
So I guess that means guitar right? Is your instrument of choice then, right?
It is, yeah. I mean, I have a lot of. It's really funny because a lot of the music that I've done that doesn't have any guitar in it was definitely written on guitar. I have like a audio plug-in where I can plug my guitar through it, and it will hear my guitar, dry guitar, and it will interpolate it and turn it into MIDI data. So it will turn it into the data that you use to control these other instruments and synths and stuff. So, or an orchestral plug-in. So, you know, when you're playing guitar but you're hearing a choir come out through your headphones, it changes the way you play guitar. But I don't know how to play piano. I don't know how to read music, so guitar is what I know. So even if you hear music I make that doesn't sound like it has guitar in it, it was written on guitar mostly.
That's amazing. I did not know that.
Yeah.
That actually piqued my
wild.
interest when you said you can't read music.
Yeah, it's true. You know, I wondered if that
I can't read music either.
Can you not?
No, I'm not as cool as you. I can't play an instrument, but I was in choir from kindergarten through 12th grade, and I could never read the music. I had to listen by ear to sing.
Yeah.
You don't have to put yourself down every time before you ask Grant a question.
No, I'm just saying, like, he's so cool that I can't help but say I'm not as cool because
Well, you
I can't
realize
compete.
we both can't read music, so you're as cool as me in that regard.
nah,
Yeah.
no.
All right. Yeah. No, I actually wondered.
Listen, it's blanketly implied we're all not as cool as Grant, okay?
Good grief.
I can read music, and I'm still not as cool as Grant.
Yeah, I wondered if that would be a problem going forward, starting to work with other people, not being able to like read sheets or make sheets or whatever, and it hasn't. And I met a lot of composers that don't know how to read music. Some like big shot people that write for TV and things, and they don't know how to read music either. And it ends up being okay either because you can take the music you've made and turn them into sheets for other people, or you can say, I don't want sheet music, send me MIDI, send me data to learn instead. So it's ended up being okay, but you'd be surprised the amount of music and games you've probably heard that are written by people that just learn by ear. Like they've learned. I've always thought of myself as more of a songwriter than a composer, but that's just the words you use. But that's, you know, I learned a bunch of Guns N' Roses songs on guitar, and here I am. I didn't come from class piano or playing in band and high school or anything like that. So it's just sort of where I came from. But yeah, tried to take class piano in college and would learn the song enough to just memorize it, and then want to like mess around instead of reading. I had to pretend to read the music, you know, in class. So
I did that as well.
Yeah.
I pretended.
yeah, you have to pretend to look up, but you're really, you know, but that's just how it is. But it hasn't really been a problem for me. So that's good.
really awesome.
It is awesome. And I got to tell everybody that if you're listening, like Grant mentioned, the way that I discovered him 21 years ago was Metroid Metal. I don't even remember. I just stumbled across your site or something. I don't know how I found you, but I bought your CD. I bought your T-shirt. That T-shirt finally bit the dust.
Yeah.
I had one of the OGs. Like it was like a strip across the front with the MM symbol.
Yep.
And then on the back it had the Metroid with the wearing the headphones. I used to listen to that thing, and in fact, I know this is for audio only listeners. This is not going to be cool, but I actually have the
that's
original
Oh, there it
awesome.
is.
CD. It's got like this hand drawn
Autographed.
artwork on the front of it.
Look at that.
Yeah.
When I met you in person for the first time up in Minneapolis at the video game music convention.
Yep.
It was like right before COVID hit. Do you remember that?
Yep, absolutely. Yeah.
And I brought that with me, and I got to like I said, meet him for the first time. I had him sign my copy of this 21-year-old. You know, it's like burned. It's not like, you know, mass produced or anything. It's got one of the labels on it that like you could buy those things at you know Best Buy or whatever.
CDR logo.
Yeah, and you print on it and put it in there. It's got a little like I don't know. It just
Was that
It's
a
just
picture? Is that a drawing of Samus's ship on the disc?
no.
Very quick,
It's actually a picture of Samus.
Throwing the
Oh,
horns.
Yes.
okay, rocking out.
Throwing the
Gotcha.
horns,
Okay.
yeah.
I
And
love
then on
it.
And then on the inside over here, there's some other like Metroids all over the
Oh,
place.
you rock, Scott.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was nice of him to lie to you on a.
I know. I know. You know, it's like you don't have to put me down every time we talk about how cool Grant is. No, but you can check out Metroid Metal and the rest of his music under Stemage, Stemage. He's got his website, of course, but I mean, he's on Spotify, Amazon Music, all that good stuff. Wherever you listen to music, you can probably check out and the Metroid stuff is just amazing. It's so good. I think I approached you originally, if you remember, because I wanted to make like a promo for the Gaming Outsider. That's when I first reached out to you. I asked your permission to use your Marble Madness cover.
Yes,
that you did. I can't remember what you called the song, but I wanted to use it in like this 30-second promo, and you responded like within an hour, or like I missed this. This of course you can use it, and then that just developed into like this friendship that we've got today, and it's awesome. So
yeah, if anyone likes Marble Madness, listen to my "Where Good Marbles Go to Die" album. That's
yes,
that was a fun
that's
one
a cool
to do.
title.
That was a fun one.
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. Well, Grant, we have some questions for you about what you do. I posted on social media and asked everybody to have some questions to ask you about what it takes to make music for video games and all this. I'm going to be direct with you. Most of them are Kevin.
That's fine.
He's got a lot of questions.
That's great.
Kevin is it's our producer, obviously, but he's also my concert buddy. We've started going to concerts. We're actually going to one tomorrow night.
Oh, awesome.
But we'll start with the other ones first. So, Zach, why don't you kick things off with Mark's question for Grant?
Sure. Mark Zamansky writes in, are you given the premise storyboards for the game so that you can start building ideas, or are you given gameplay videos to design the music around?
That's a good question.
It is a good question. I mean, it really depends. I think a lot of it has to do with how much the music is tied to the game. You know, if you're making like a musical game, sometimes you're going to be making art, or you're going to be making movement, or the gameplay is going to be tied to the music. But if you're just trying to if someone needs music for a scene and the scene has some art associated, something to give you an idea of the vibe, then you get something. You normally at least get some sketches or some art, just some mood art to try and so you can get something down. There's an interesting story when I was doing the music for Card of Darkness, which is a kind of a run-based card game for iOS, for Apple Arcade by Zach Gage. The art was done by Pendleton Ward, who did Adventure Time, and the music, the artwork is very cartoony. You know, our Adventure Time looks like like that. It's very cute, very cartoony. So I started working on some level music, and he was like, "This is too happy. This is so." We want this way darker because this game is mean. This game is hard. Like the art is deceptive. The idea is that
because like the key art is like of a rainbow in the background, right?
Oh, exactly.
Yeah.
It's like a really cute bumblebee, or a really cute flower, and this sort of chibi looking little dude with a giant pot. He's wielding a pot as his weapon and a backpack, and so. But it turns out this game is rough. This game is dark. This game wants you to concentrate. And so that is what he wanted the music to reflect. So we went through revisions of the music. We started happy, and then I sort of went from there. I did a revision of that was a little darker, and a revision of that went from major to minor, a revision of that was a little darker, and then we found the vibe. And we ended up something that was a little. He was a big fan of the Secret of Mana soundtrack, which is just an all-time great soundtrack. And so we ended up with music that was much more moody, much more dark than planned. So I really needed more than just the art to find the right sound for this game. And we got there, but it took some work to get there. So, it's nice to get just some art or just some sketches or assets, but you really need to whoever's working on the game, it really involves like a conversation to figure out what is needed, and you eventually get there. You hope you get there, but it can take some work to find the sound for something like that. But yeah, you get something. Most of the time you get something, unless it's super early and you're just trying to get the gig where you need to write like 30 seconds of music just to prove that you know what you're doing. Normally, if you're in a part of the project, you're going to get something to work with, but what you get can vary.
I kind of want to two things. I want to be a fly on the wall for those conversations, just because that sounds like a fascinating thing to hear.
Yeah.
And number two, it's got to be so bizarre doing it from their perspective, where all they're giving you is a tone that they want. You know what I mean? Or this is the vibe we want for this, and then sitting and waiting, and all of a sudden you produce this music, and what would that experience be like to have not heard? They didn't hear the process of you writing it as you did. You know what I mean? Whether it be in your head or on paper or then actually with your instruments. But then to like, piece it together piece by piece and put this track together and kind of grow up with this track as it becomes from infancy to whatever it is. But he just gets it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's just got to be such an interesting experience to like, let's see what the composer comes up with for the song, and then, how honest are they with you?
Yeah, and I think like some people are better at describing what they want in music than others, and you don't necessarily need to be a musician to explain that kind of stuff. You might just be really good at at explaining the vibe you're looking for. Someone might say something like, "Oh gosh, it needs to sound more." Some people will say it sounds too dark, but you don't know what dark means. Does dark mean sonically? It's too dark. There's not enough brightness in it. Or is it musically? It needs to sound brighter. You never really know. But someone might be like, it sounds a little too much like this. Could you make it sound more like this? And they talk about, they're naming composers. And then you can go, oh, okay. I see what he means. It sounds a little like this composer, but he wants it to sound a little more like this. Then you can try and like make it work. But I don't know, when people, it all depends on who you're talking to. It's really funny. Sometimes when musicians are giving you feedback, it's too specific. And it's almost easier to get feedback from non-musicians because they're talking about how they're feeling. They're not talking about specific instruments or EQ or, whatever. But yeah, it can be, I don't know, the feedback process, the back and forth can be easy, but it can also be really, really hard. It just depends, but yeah, I should send you. I have the MP3s of the song was too happy, and then where we ended up. I should send you that. I think it's like 4 songs, so you could hear what it sounded like.
I would love to hear
it's
that.
Too happy, and then here we finally landed on it. I'll have to send those to you so you can listen to them.
Yeah, that'd be an. Can you put that like in a YouTube video or something?
I should do that. Yeah, I'll throw you the MP3s for them. You could. You can put them in here if you wanted to.
I mean, I'd love to listen to them too. So
yeah, I'll send you links to those. But
all right, cool.
Yeah,
we'll put Kevin to work. Ask him to do it.
Kevin,
there you go. So, but with like Hex Tech, because it's so rhythm based, were you in on the ground floor for that?
Yeah.
Then or
yes,
because they would almost have to build levels around your music, right?
That's exactly right. So for Hex Tech, a couple things. One, Riot Games is very much a music studio. As much as a League of Legends studio, so they create these artists, these pretend virtual artists, and make albums and songs for them. So they make music in house all the time. So, and there's music videos. There was a music video for Jinx, years ago for her theme song. Well, our little character Ziggs didn't have a theme song, so we're like, crap. We gotta find the Ziggs sound, and so he's this like little yordle that builds bombs in it with duct tape in his garage. He's sort of unhinged. What does that sound like? So we ended up sort of like in the Crash Bandicoot era PS1 vibe with the music, and then wanted to have all these like tinkering noises too. So there's a lot of clockwork that plays in key, like a lot of tinks and sort of mechanical stuff that would sound like maybe him in his garage building bombs. So we made him a theme song, and then from there we were making these levels where we wanted every jump to be a kick drum and every slam to be a snare drum, like bump, jump, bump, bump, jump. So I had to go through and like write a song, and then I would take the data of that song and we'd import it into the engine for our programmer to actually make a level to have him move with the music. And he would come back and go, hey, this fill does not work. Like, dude can't move to fit this drum beat. So I would edit it to make it fit the drum beat. So it was literally like a back and forth between me and the level designers to find out what we needed for on the music side and the gameplay side to like make levels that work.
So just to be like, so on bar 74, there's too many beats in this drum fill. Can you simplify that one? Like, is it that?
It's like that. What he basically would do is he would make a level, and then he would get as close as he could, and then he would highlight a couple spots where he had to do something different. And so I would just go and change the drums to whatever he did, and then finish the song, over it. It was all percussion based, right? Like everything all his movement. But yeah, it was definitely ground floor because you're locking his movement to the music. I had to be there from the beginning to make that work.
It's fascinating.
That was hard. It was
Yeah,
really, it was rough. So yeah, Sometimes but I don't always have to be there from the beginning. But when we're talking about a rhythm platformer, definitely from the beginning.
Yeah. All right, Alyssa, you want to take the next question?
Sure. Sean Coates asks, did you ever work on projects where you had to factor in or make considerations for any hardware limitations? If so, how did it affect the way you approached your compositions?
That's a really good question. Yeah, I think like the most recent game that I worked on, Bit Trip Rerunner, it's a game where a song will play, and then as you mode up, as you collect power-ups, the music will switch to a different layer. So there's 5 layers of music sort of playing at the same time, and then in memory,
Like
right?
Amplitude style?
Like Amplitude, very very similar to that. And then in addition to that, you're collecting everything you interact with, everything you hit, everything you jump over is all playing from these batches of sounds that all play in time with the music. So everything, and you know, depending on the chord of that part of the song, it will play a different collection of sounds because they'll be in a different key. So all the sounds have to be in key with the music, which means all that stuff has to be in memory, ready to fire too. So when you start talking about hardware limitations, when you're doing all this stuff in time, CPU is very, very a thing that we have to pay attention to. Like we have to make sure that we're not squeezing the system so much to make things fire in time that it causes any lag. If you have a lag in a rhythm platformer, it ruins the game. Like starts skipping frames, it either destroys the gameplay or it destroys the audio, right? So we have to make sure that works. And then in addition, when we're loading all this stuff in memory, it takes up memory. So we have to make sure to optimize to make sure that works as well. So that was a really good example of one of those things where I couldn't just do whatever I wanted and have everything loaded into memory ahead of time because it just was going to bog the system down. So to answer your question, yeah, if you're not doing something like that where everything has to fire in time, I think you have a bit more leeway. Like stuff can kind of come and go, but when you need to have all this audio armed, like ready to fire at any moment, depending on what you do, then you definitely got to worry about hardware. You have to do stuff specific to PC. You got to do stuff specific to Xbox and PS5, and Switch is an 8-year-old mobile phone. So like, you know, it just depends. But yeah, it's definitely something you have to pay attention to. You have to go through optimization for audio, just like you do for like, you know, the games that are getting fixed after launch, all the frame skipping and buffering and crap you see with graphics. You have to do all that stuff with audio as well. I just don't think you notice it as much when games launch because the audio stuff's a bit easier to figure out than the graphics stuff. I'm just rambling now. Does this make sense?
It's making sense,
Okay,
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Good.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Well, here we go, man. I've got the onslaught of questions from Kevin. He actually started and said, how many questions am I allowed to ask?
Kevin is awesome. Kevin is like the GoCast unsung hero. He's sung.
Seriously?
But Kevin's a hero. Kevin is like killer producer. He's doing all this like social stuff. He's great. I love Kevin.
yeah.
So ask as many
He
questions
makes us
as you
sound
want.
good.
That's right. So
Yeah.
go nuts.
So his first question says, do you go through some sort of agency or something, or do studios just find you somehow and say, hey, we need music stuffs for our Shooty Shooty Bang Bang?
The agency I work with is called Shooty Shooty Bang Bang. No, that's not true.
Oh, what a coincidence.
No, I don't have an agent or anything. I'm absolutely 100% freelance guy. A lot of the gigs I get are just because people have worked with me before, and I might be recommended to someone. So they do. At this point, I'm getting enough gigs, and I have enough regular things that I haven't had to like, you know, cold call as much. You know, posts looking for audio. I haven't. It's been more like I knew there was an opportunity, and so I would either reach out to someone or someone reached out to me. And I'm trying to do fewer larger projects instead of a ton of tiny things, just because you know it's easier that way. But yeah, no agency. It's just me working with these teams and figuring out what they need and making it work.
Well, can I ask then, because you said Steven Universe and Rogue Legacy was some of your earlier work, you know, freelancing. How did you get hooked up with Steven Universe? Because wasn't that kind of a big property?
Yeah, big.
It was definitely a big show
Yeah.
during that time.
So Rebecca Sugar, the creator of Steven Universe, really enjoyed this duo's now husband and wife couple, Ivy and Sarashu, loved their music they had done on their. She does mostly piano, and he does mostly chip stuff, and really enjoyed their original album they made. So reached out to them thinking they'd be a good fit for her show. And then when they had a drummer that they were using regularly, and we were all sort of friends, but then there was a need for a guitar. And I remember it very specifically, Ivy saying, "Oh, I just thought Grant did all of the like loud guitar stuff, like the heavy stuff. I didn't know he had an acoustic." I'm like, "I got a bunch of acoustics. They're right here." So they brought me in to do some acoustic for a song, and then fast forward, I did pretty much all the guitar for the show. And whenever Greg was playing acoustic on screen, that's me playing those guys playing.
Whoa, really?
Yeah,
I gotta watch
playing the
Steven
acoustic.
Universe now.
Say, Greg is the rocker, bro.
Dude, let me tell you, the first time I saw Greg, a cartoon on screen playing the guitar I recorded, like it was the most surreal thing in the world.
That's absolutely crazy.
So yeah,
I know Greg's guitar.
Yeah, Greg playing the grandpa guitar. So I just sort of stayed on that, and then did all 5 seasons with them, and then the movie happened, and I actually got to arrange a song for the movie, and then I did a little bit of guitar for the Steven Universe Future show as well. So it was just because I had known them in the video game music remix stuff, and it was just a sort of they knew me. We'd done little things together, and then when it was time to look for guitar, they decided to reach out. So
wow,
yeah,
it really is who you know.
It really is who you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yep.
Wow, but Kevin's next question here: do you just record MP3 or wave tracks and send them to them, or do you have to do anything special since they're going into a video game format?
That's a great question. Yeah, it's always waves, and the format of the wave just is great because Kevin's dealing with like sample rates and audio formats all the time, so. It's always waves. The format of the wave just depends on the engine, and sometimes I'm just writing music and doing as they say, throwing it over the fence, like it's just music and they put it in the game. Or for the case of the stuff I've done for Choice Provisions, they use like audio middleware. I like Fmod. That's what you've heard, Fmod or Wise. You boot up a game and you see Fmod or you see Wise, right? You see Wise for the expensive games. You see Fmod for the indie games. That's mostly always the case.
Okay.
So Fmod is kind of like it's just a piece of software that allows you to set up all the audio like you want. And then you tell the programmers, hey, these are the names of the calls for this audio. Stick them in the game. They do it. And then you can tweak it when they're done. So sometimes it's hands-on and sometimes it's just sending WAV files to people and hope for the best. So just depends.
Very interesting.
Kevin's next question is, how do you know what type of feeling a studio is going for with music? Do you record a handful of different types and give them to the studio to pick from? Or do they tell you what type of feel they're going for?
That's a great question. We covered a little bit of that when I was talking about the Card of Darkness soundtrack, but sometimes they don't have any information. Sometimes they have no idea. They're like game designers. They're not music people. They're like, I don't know what I want. Like, what do you think? And so you've seen sheets of designed logos where like they've made 12, a designer's made 10 different logos of different, feels for a company, and you kind of pick the one you want and you go from there. So sometimes we call those audio thumbnails. We'll do versions of that too. I might do like 12 seconds of a couple different things just to see where to get started. So that's happened a few times too. Especially
do you reuse those, like something you've used in a previous project that didn't get used, and then just like present that to the next company?
Yeah, sometimes I've just grabbed them and put them online as little 20-30 second samples because I thought they were cute or neat. And there are a few times I've like used stuff for projects that never happened and reused it for something new. I will tell you, I wrote about 25 minutes of music for a game that will never come out. The music is this was several years ago. It's possible I could use that for something else, but it was so specific to the game that it may not ever get used again. But that also,
I can't believe you did music
happens.
for Scalebound.
Yes, exactly. I did it for. I was going to try to make a joke about a game I can't remember the name of.
Oh, another canceled.
Oh crap! Another canceled thing. Yeah. Anyway,
sad cancel.
Yeah.
Star Wars 1313, dude. That
That's
was
it.
you?
That was me.
Yeah.
All in the
bummer.
trash can. No.
Yeah, just like George Lucas wanted.
Yeah.
Let's see. The next question from Kevin. What was your first job involving video game music, and how did that come about, and how did you feel when it happened?
My first game music was for an Xbox Live indie game. That is a specific thing for the 360.
Yeah, I remember that.
There was an Xbox Live indie game service, a channel where you could get games.
Of course. That's where I played this sweet ass rhythm game called Sequence, which is like a turn-based RPG where the music battles were, rhythm arrows.
Was it good?
Kind of like DDR. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
There were some really good games on there. I think DLC Quest originally came out on Xbox Live Indies. I did music for a game called Alpha Squad, which was kind of Contra, isometric Contra. And I wrote a bunch of rock music for it. And it was the first time I had to create seamless loops, where you can't hear the click of music starting over. Right. And I wrote like this 20-something minute soundtrack for this game. I think it was pretty good. Game was not great. Game is also, it's vaporized. It's gone forever. But the soundtrack is still on my Bandcamp. I still play one of those songs live if I get to play live, but that was it. That was 2010, I think, 10 or 11, something like that. But yeah, Alpha Squad.
Shout out to the
Gone Forever,
Dead and Erased Xbox Live.
I know. It was a pretty cool service. They just didn't.
I miss those days, man.
Pour one out.
That's right.
Well, it was it was kind of a fun place, not to discount the games, but it was a fun place when you had leftover Microsoft points.
Yep.
Yes.
You would just go on there and just find something totally weird.
Yep.
Isn't that where I made a game with zombies in it?
That was one of the first Xbox Live indie games, was that with that song. Yeah. And it was, oh my gosh.
It was like 180 Microsoft. It was like $2 or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, that game had some cool music.
It did have
so
some cool
funny.
music. I miss those old Xbox 360 days, though, of the online stuff when that was first starting to get its footing. Remember they would do those, was it like Summer of Arcade?
Summer of Arcade.
Yeah.
Yep.
You'd get like 4 games and get the 5th one for free.
Yeah. And
even though you didn't really want 3 of those games, it was like, well, I'm not going to not get that one for free.
And most of them were pretty good. Like there were some really good summer games.
Braid was in there.
Yeah.
Braid and Castle Crashers was the same year. I remember that.
I think the Trials debut was on the Xbox Live indie game.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man, I miss the Trials games.
Me too.
Oh, those were fun.
They still make them, but they have too much going on now. I like the simplicity of the early Trials games.
Yeah.
But the next question from Kevin here: if you're allowed and comfortable speaking on it, how does compensation work? Do you get royalties?
So I don't get any royalties for game sales. I do know of some composers that whenever they were approached to do soundtrack for a game, they saw that there was super potential there, and they said, "I will do this soundtrack for free, but I want to get whatever % of the game sales." And for games that are indie games, that's really attractive because there's no money up front. I know of one specific instance, which I will not name, where that's what the guy did. And let's just say the game was so massive and has continued to be massive that he built a new studio from the proceeds of that. So it was a smart move. Mostly what happens...
Does it rhyme with Vampire Survivors?
I don't know who did the music for Vampire Survivors, but boy, is that music good.
Yes.
Boy.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Most of the time you're either you're getting paid per minute of music completed, or you're getting paid like a flat fee. Like you look at the entire project and you go, I would do it for this much money, or you do it, for a payment after the game is done and sells for a little bit. So you can do it a number of different ways.
So you literally give them a quote.
You give them a quote. And it's rough because it's that thing when you're freelancing where someone asks, what's your rate? And then you go, what's your budget? And then you get like, it's like stalemate. It's not really stalemate, but it's that uncomfortable conversation of like, okay, you want to quote them what you think that your time's worth, but you don't want it to look too high so that they think there's no chance, or you don't want to be too low. If they say, yes, we're good, and they answer too quick, you're like, crap, I didn't charge enough.
Should ask for more. Yep.
It's hard. It's really hard. And it's, sometimes you don't know, unless it's someone you've worked with before, you don't know how many revisions you're going to be doing. You don't know how many extra hours of work is going to take to put it in the game. It gets really, really complicated, and there's a lot of educational resources to try and help with that stuff out there. But I don't get I get royalties for like the plays on streaming services, and I do get royalties for like things that I've written that have aired on television and stuff like that, because royalties that just happens as when you watch a TV show that has music in it. Whoever wrote that music gets a cut for that time you watched that show. That's how that works. It doesn't work that way in games. When a game is sold, it's owned, but it's different for TV. But yeah, but I don't know. So there's different ways to get paid, and normally royalties when it comes to game sales aren't really a part of the equation for most composers. So you just try to be smart. You try to think about how valuable your time is, and try to come up with numbers that feel right. And
now, what about like and you don't have to answer this if you don't want to, but like for the music that you sold and the game never came out, like do you still get paid for that even though they didn't?
That particular project, luckily, I was being paid monthly for the work that I was doing as that game was being worked on. And when that game got canceled, they wouldn't ask, okay, so you hear about all these studios getting closed or these games getting canceled. Most of those people who worked on the game up to that point were paid. So they're not getting paid monthly, and then when the game's canceled, they owe all that money back. It doesn't really work that way. So luckily, I did get paid an amount to make that music, but the game never happened. And so it's like, well, at least I'm not super depressed because I got paid nothing to do music for someone, but that music is sort of locked up and will never see the light of day. That's lucky that I got paid to do that. It's way better than just saying you're going to do it and we'll see, and then it doesn't happen. So, it wasn't.
Right, but it is sad. No one will ever hear that music.
That's true.
Then, right?
Yeah. That's how it is.
Kevin's next question is: do you work with other musicians when you record for games?
Yeah, almost always. Sometimes not. I'll get other players in. I'll get drummers in, or vocalists in, or people to play solos or other stuff. And then when I'm getting pulled in to play on a soundtrack, obviously I'm playing with them. But it just depends. I think it's really hard to. I don't really write AAA music, so I'm not hiring an orchestra in Prague to record my orchestral music, which is where you go, by the way. You go to Prague. I don't do that, so I don't have to worry about budgeting that. I like to keep it. I do mostly indie game music, so I like to kind of keep it where I don't have to hire external musicians to play the stuff that I write. I like to try and do it all myself, but I'm always trying to get guests in that do what they do best because it just makes it better.
Nice. He's got one more, and I promise this is the last one from Kevin.
He said he didn't mind Kevin's questions. Okay,
I don't mind Kevin's questions.
Yeah.
He said, is there a dream game that you want to perform on?
As far as a genre, I think it would be really fun to write a shmup soundtrack.
What about a Shmacross?
What?
Shmacross.
I don't know what you just said. I don't know what either of you just said.
That was from our renaming game title episode.
Genres. Renaming genres.
Did you
shoot 'em up? If you're shooting across, it's a Shmacross.
Oh, Shmacross! Like if it's like Life Force. If it's Life Force, it's just Shmacross or Greatest.
Yeah.
Okay. 10-4. So a Shmacross would be pretty cool. I would love to do a horror game, and I would love to do a pinball machine, like a physical, like a real one, like a real pinball machine.
I saw Scott's face light up as soon as you said pinball.
So yeah,
there was a guy that I was following on Twitter for a while, and I haven't seen him in a while. I wonder if it ever happened. That was designing a Metroid pinball table.
Oh, I'm familiar. Yeah.
I think it's in Chicago actually. Like it's not maybe Indiana. How cool would it be if you got to do the soundtrack on that?
Oh yeah,
man.
Yeah. There's a lot of DIY pinball stuff out there, so who knows? But that is just a kind of an all-time. It's very game related. It's a game adjacent. It's similar. It's music. It's loops. It's sound effects. It's fanfares. It's all the stuff you hear in a game, but it's just there's just a giant steel ball flying around, smashing your finger.
Yeah, I'm also going to need you to call my wife and convince her that it's a good idea to get physical pinball table in my basement. One of those ones you made.
Like a virtual pin?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm not going to have 15 pinball tables down here, but just get one that I can play any Pinball FX game on. That just would be amazing.
I can try. I can work on that.
All right.
For you.
Appreciate it. That and an espresso machine.
Espresso machine's cheaper.
I know, right?
Way cheaper.
Well, Grant, thank you so much for sharing that information about what you do. It's a fascinating endeavor. I've always been curious about how all that works, and thanks for sharing it. It's been awesome.
It's fun to talk about, and I don't talk about it like this a lot, so it's kind of fun to think through.
Sure.
In real time with you guys.
We're gonna kind of keep this going though, and talk about soundtracks in general. We'll talk about our favorites in a second, but before we do, I want to talk about some of your favorite specific moments in games that were so memorable because of the music associated with it. And I will tell you, I have so many from my years of gaming, and I feel like my list is so small by comparison to how many there actually are. It's just so difficult to remember them. But Grant, let's start with you. What are some of your most memorable video game moments?
I'm right there with you. So I just wrote 2 down. I wrote,
okay.
These are the first 2 that popped in my head, and I don't know why these were the 2, but there's 2. One is the ending of Super Mario Brothers 2.
Dude, that was... You and I are the only ones that like seriously love the music at the end of that
Really?
game.
Interesting.
I feel like it because I brought it up at somewhere. Like I got emotional listening to that music.
I had
when
like
I was
a
younger.
tiny little boy existential crisis at the end of Super Mario Brothers 2, and I feel like the music was part of that, like the dream world to wake up, all this stuff. So that's really fun. Yeah, we're the same age. That's why. And then the other thing was Doom 2016.
That was on my list.
When you first when you go into the elevator and the logo drops. And then it comes out, and it has there's a timed musical stinger when he cocks the shotgun and goes out of the elevator.
Yep.
And I'm like, this is serious shit. Like this is not some. I'm sorry, I'm not supposed to say that. Anyway,
no, you're fine.
It's like they went there. They went for the. It is as cheesy as it is cool vibe that I really wanted Doom to be, and that it's always been. That was the moment that I realized it was serious, was when I heard that and the shotgun thing and the heaviness and the 8-string guitar. So yeah, I don't know, that got me riled up because you didn't hear a lot of the like gent metal stuff up till 2016. Now everything's got it, but anyway, those are the 2 things I wrote down.
Nice. How about you, Zach?
Oh man, yeah. So a few moments came to mind. The first and perhaps best is Near Automata. I don't want to give anything away, but what happens during the credits musically, if it does not bring a tear to your eye, I assume you're not human. It's very interactive with what you're doing. So a very powerful moment. Final Fantasy IX has a great the song "You're Not Alone" plays as Zidane is going through some depression near the end of the game, and it's kind of got this like low, sad electric guitar playing against gospel choir chants. And it's just an interesting combination with the song. Every time I hear the song, it takes you right back to that scene because it's the only time that piece of music is used during the game. Because Yu Uematsu was a madman in Final Fantasy IX and made like 4 CDs worth of music for one game. But it's just a beautiful moment where Zidane thinks all hope is lost, and his friends are reminding him that they're just not gonna let him give up. Basically, it's a pretty beautiful moment. And then the last piece of music that plays during the last mission of Red Dead Redemption 2 is kind of a feel good kind of badass song that plays during it. It makes you feel really cool. But if you can listen to it and mix into this new song is John Marston's theme from the first Red Dead Redemption, which doesn't really play anywhere else during the game. But this is the last piece of Red Dead Redemption 2 as it builds into this. He's finally becoming the John Marston from the first game. So I always thought that was a nice little beautiful touch, kind of arranging that into the song that plays.
He would appreciate that you noticed that. I wonder how many people actually picked up on that playing.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Well, it's very cool.
Thanks. I don't know. I feel confident.
Alyssa, did you have any?
I only had a couple, and they're both tied to the same franchise, but it's basically like what you and Grant said. Like, there's so many moments that I've played in games where I've appreciated the music, but it kind of just like they don't stick out after I've played them.
Yeah.
In my mind, at least, until someone mentions it, and then I'm like, oh yeah. But always the end credits for both of the Portal games. Those songs
Oh yeah.
are so catchy, and like I have to every time I've played those games, I have to sit through the credits and listen because they're just the lyrics and just the sound. It's just, and then it gets stuck in your head for days afterward.
Yep. Yeah.
So those are really the ones that stick out to me, are the end credit songs or the Portal games.
I have a buddy. I can't remember if I told you guys this story before, but
When he quit his job.
Yeah, well, he didn't quit his job.
Oh.
One of his coworkers quit his job, and
yeah.
He had no idea what Portal was. And Grant, I guess I've told you guys, but maybe I haven't told Grant. So my buddy had never played Portal, had no idea what any of it was, and a coworker of his quit by putting in a Word document the lyrics to "Still Alive" on like a Word document and just leaving it on his computer, and that's how he quit.
Wow.
And so my buddy was telling me, like, you won't believe what this dude left like on his computer to quit. And he told me, he said something about Black Mesa, and I was like, what? And it turned out that he left so I had to explain to him what it was and why it was weird, yes, but it was also kind of brilliant to do that.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
It's a mic drop.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting. So I got a few. Again, I feel like this list should be way longer than it is, but the ones that stood out immediately: Ori and the Blind Forest, the section where you were escaping the Ginsu tree. I don't know if you guys remember that, but man, it made a grueling portion of the game that was really tough and challenging. It made it not an issue to play it over and over again because the game brilliantly didn't start the music over. It just kept looping the music. Or maybe I'm not remembering it correctly, but I just remember never getting annoyed with the music. Like, it was just awesome, and it was, I could hear the music in my head. It was so good. Another musical moment for me was Far Cry 3, when you were burning the weed fields and the Skrillex music is playing.
That's so funny.
I don't know if that's like, it was actually Skrillex, right? It wasn't like
I
a
believe
Skrillex.
it was Skrillex. I believe so, yeah, because he was big at that time.
And I don't know if that's like a normal song or if he wrote that for the game, but like, it was an awesome moment, gameplay wise, because you're just like torching these fields with this music going on in the background. It just was awesome. It would be impossible for me to talk about beautiful music moments without mentioning at least one Legend of Zelda game, but so many. But one of the ones that stood out was the Dark World theme in Link to the Past, where that music, coupled with the fact that you just realize the game is now 3 times bigger than you thought it was.
Yeah.
And just like this foreboding, dark theme was such a moment as a kid, because I thought the game was almost over. That was before I kind of understood the formula of Zelda as well as I do now. That was huge.
Yeah, that game was so much more modern than the original Zelda, just like Super Metroid was. So it was sort of you're taken aback. It's like real work. This game is going to be real work for different reasons.
Oh yeah.
I also want to mention, like, because you mentioned Zelda, I was thinking of Zelda's Lullaby. Whenever it shows up in a game, it always sneaks in and has a big effect on me. I kind of compare it to Leia's theme. Because Leia's theme will sneak in every once in a while, and I feel like I get the same kind of vibe from that whenever that happens, but I don't know.
Totally. Yeah. My next one is interesting because I'm not a massive Halo fan. I like the games, but I'm not like deeply entrenched in the lore or anything. I just think they're just fun shooters. But the moment in Halo Infinite, the past one that came out, where the first time Master Chief actually goes outside, because the game starts out where he's like in corridors, if I remember correctly, and then you get on a ship and you're like hanging on the side of the ship as it exits this hangar, and when they use that Halo theme in that moment, I got chills. Because I knew the music from the original previous games, but that was like where the game really picked up, and you saw how massive that world was. Very much like in Ocarina. When you come into Hyrule Field for the first time, you're like, oh, this is how big the world actually is. That was that moment in Halo Infinite for me. And then my last one is the Venice Rooftops music from Assassin's Creed 2. I'm not sure if that music is so iconic to me because it's what they used to play on Major Nelson's podcast at the beginning of each episode.
Oh, is that right?
Or if it was actually from the game, but like it's just even if you don't hear it in your head right now, you know the music. I guarantee you know that music. But it was, when you're tiptoeing around the rooftops of Venice. That's obviously why Venice Rooftops is a very apt name. But I really, really enjoyed that music. So awesome. Like I said, I could probably come up with 15 more if I sat down and thought about it. But we don't want to. We don't want another 3-hour podcast. So, what are some of your favorite overall soundtracks in terms of how they improve the experience of playing the games? Zach?
Well, I mean, of course, I got to give a shout out to the Red Dead games here, of course, because they just both have soundtracks that make you feel like you're part of a Western movie. Especially the first game really does make you feel like you're in a Clint Eastwood motion picture, which helps sell the world. But in terms, a lot of the other soundtracks that came to mind are all JRPG.
Yeah, dude, I had the same problem. All my favorite ones were JRPGs.
I don't fully understand that. I mean, more action RPG adjacent, it would be, of course, the Nier and Drakengard soundtracks are incredible. Anything Keiichi Okabe composes is next level. But particularly the soundtracks to Automata or Drakengard 3 are spectacular. Drakengard 3's final boss music is something for, I don't know, I was going to say a sight to behold, but I guess it's a sound to behold. I guess. Sure. But then, the Persona 3 and 4 have absolute banger soundtracks. Most of the Final Fantasy games have incredible soundtracks that add to the world. And, if a game can nail a battle theme, I feel like that really goes a long way. Because then you kind of look forward to even random encounters because you get to hear that awesome FF9 battle music, or what have you, and it just sells you into that world.
What's interesting is like even though all of those battle themes are different from game to game, they always feel like they have the same cadence, almost like or like just this upbeat, like, all right, we're about to fight. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah. I mean, Nobuo Uematsu is a genius.
Yep, he is.
No doubt. So, yeah, I mean, so I'm sure there are other games, of course, but there really is just something about those JRPG soundtracks that do it, Chrono Trigger, incredible soundtrack.
Chrono Trigger.
Yeah.
That opening with the clock pendulum going back and forth and then turning into the sea that folds out into Chrono Trigger's title.
Oh, sure.
Oh.
And the fact that they
Chrono.
are creating these like sweeping pieces of music you would expect to be performed by an orchestra, but it's done in these old sound technology. Like it's done in these old chips, and they somehow still get the vibe right.
Yeah, dude, I mean that's talking back to Trails in the Sky again. Just like I'm like, how did they make a soundtrack that's banging on a PSP sound processor? It's unbelievable. I don't know. It's just I feel like a lot of those soundtracks are somehow timeless. Maybe it's because of how often you hear them. Maybe they could be bad and you would just be Stockholmed into liking them. I have no idea, but as it stands, dude, I mean, I don't know. Those are definitely what came to mind first when I think of game soundtracks.
All right, Alyssa?
I had the same thing come up. It's a lot of JRPGs. Of course, Final Fantasy, you expect iconic soundtracks when you play a game like from that franchise. Persona, those games as well. I really love the soundtrack from Tales of Vesperia. Tales of usually has some pretty good soundtracks. I haven't played the most recent games, so I can't comment on those. It's mostly JRPG soundtracks that stand out to me. But I do love like the soundtracks from the more recent Doom games as well, because you just gotta get some heavy metal in sometimes.
Yeah.
Get your heart racing.
Yeah, I love it. I wanted so badly to put the Uncharted soundtrack, but I don't remember much of the soundtrack. I just remember the theme.
Mm-hmm.
The theme of Uncharted is so perfect for those games. It just feels like you were on an epic Indiana Jones adventure. But with its own theme song that just is a little bit more patriotic. I don't know, is how you would describe Uncharted. So I didn't really put that as a favorite soundtrack, but I love the theme. Go ahead.
Oh, I just said it was a good theme. That's all. Sorry. It was a totally unnecessary comment. I think the composer is the same guy, Greg Edmonson. I think he did Firefly music, I want to say.
Oh,
interesting.
Oh, cool.
Love Firefly music. Oh.
I know.
Zach mentioned the Final Fantasy games, and it was really difficult for me to not put any specific moments from Final Fantasy VI because I feel like there are so many singular moments that are focused around music in that game. So I just put it the whole soundtrack because that overworld theme is one of the most hauntingly beautiful overworld themes in any RPG I've ever played before. Absolutely love that one.
Does the overworld theme change when it goes over to the world of ruin?
Yes.
It does? Okay. I just haven't gotten that far in FF6. So
you know what? I may be wrong. Somebody's going to correct me if I'm wrong. I gotta go because I played the first half of that game so many times, and I've only played the back half once. So I could be completely misremembering that. So I can't say with certainty. And then the other one I really liked is out of all the Final Fantasies, Final Fantasy 13. I know that game is kind of divisive. I liked it, but that soundtrack was so good. I really enjoyed the soundtrack of that one. It just it felt very different from all the other Final Fantasy games. I know that's kind of a silly thing to say about Final Fantasy because they all are inherently different in one way or another. But
they have the same composer for 9 of them,
right?
Yeah.
Well, 9.5, I think, because I think he oversaw the 10 soundtrack, if I remember right.
Correct. I had Doom on here as well. I won't dwell on that one because Grant already talked about that one. But going old school a little bit, Mega Man X, that soundtrack. Well, actually, I mean, all Mega Man games in general are just those songs are all great. But X is where it started. It went from 8-bit to 16-bit in such a way that it just got heavier. Like it wasn't quite metal. It was like a step between MIDI and metal. And the Storm Eagle soundtrack or Storm Eagle stage song in particular was my ringtone on my phone for like a long. I still have it on my phone right now. I absolutely love that one. I can't sit here and have a conversation with Grant without mentioning Super Metroid. That and again, there's singular moments, but that whole soundtrack from the opening. There's a TikTok. Did I share that TikTok with you, Grant, where some dude was playing that like on like a pipe organ?
Yeah.
How hauntingly perfect
it was
that?
Perfect.
Like,
I know, surprisingly.
It's so good.
Yeah.
And I never I've heard that theme so long for so many years. I never realized how dissonant those two notes were at the beginning where they like cross over and the organ really made that stand out. Like, wow, those are not right.
It's horror music. Good. It's really horror music. Like, followed by a really epic,
and
I mean, like A-Team music. Like, what are you even doing here? Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah.
No, the Metroid music is great, but I would prefer it if it was in metal form.
Oh yeah, sure.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on the right podcast.
We just like get that game remade with Grant's music behind it and all those spots. That would be amazing. That's got to be. You can mod that, can't we? Can't that be modded somehow?
Sure. Probably wouldn't fit, but give it a shot. Let me know how it feels.
Oh, I would. We'll make it.
Yeah, we'll do it.
I also put on here Earthbound. That it's not like an epic score or anything. That's a very quirky, fun, silly soundtrack. But man, if that game just doesn't put a smile on my face with the music, and you know how like when you're walking around in a JRPG and the music just gets really old, it never ever gets old in that game. Same with Robotrek. I go listen to the Robotrek soundtrack at some point and tell me that game that is not brilliant. Quick themes in that one. I really like that one. I missed one in Moments, by the way, the section we were talking about before. And you're going to laugh at me, but the pause music in GoldenEye from Nintendo 64. I mean, it's just the James Bond theme, but I don't know what they did to make that just groove so well as they did in that one. All right, so I want to ask you guys, do you ever listen to soundtracks outside of playing games? And if so...
I want to answer the one about my favorite soundtracks. Can I do that?
Oh, I just was going to walk right over you, man. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
You did walk right over him. There was no if.
Can I just say a few things about
Please do, man. Thank you for stopping me.
No, it's a problem. I just put this in... I was thinking about classic stuff I loved as a kid, and more modern stuff. Yeah. So a couple things for classic. I put Zelda. Just Zelda, all of it.
Yeah, that makes
sense. It just made me feel as a kid. It put me in the right adventure mode to do that whole thing. Sonic. I was a big Sonic kid. I feel like, you know how there's some music that just makes you feel cool while you're hearing it, especially when you're younger. I feel like Sonic music just made me feel cool. Like I love all the themes from Sonic, and I feel like that kind of added to his attitude and that world. I loved the 90s kind of like breakbeaty techno crossover crap like Wipeout or Jet Moto, that kind of weird stuff. There was a place in time that I remember when I was like 15, 16, that a lot of that stuff was and it fit those future racers and stuff. I thought it fit that really well. And the big one I want to mention is there's this era of games in the arcade on Genesis that were called the Super Scalers. So like Galaxy Force 2 and Power Drift and Outrun and Afterburner, like all those games where the pixels would get really big in the arcade. Space Harrier, those games. All those soundtracks are written by this jazz group called the Sega Sound Team, SST. Feel free to look them up. But there was a band that wrote music, and then they took that music and like retrofitted it to work on the sound chip. And so it's really fusion. It's like fusion, but kind of heavy, and has all these crazy bass lines and stuff. And all the games with the SST music just makes me feel super cool. I own some of them on vinyl, but yeah, Galaxy Force 2 and Power Drift music, Outrun, that stuff. That's like my favorite jam. It's almost like Muzak in a Genesis game. So I had to mention that. And then modern stuff, I'll be quick. Modern stuff, I love rock. There was this window where rock was like blacklisted in games, I don't know why. And then Guilty Gear came out. And everyone realized that soaring rock guitar in a fighting game is cool. So Guilty Gear is cool. Also, Paper Mario Origami King had like all this metal for the boss battles. Oh. It like the heaviest boss battle music you've ever heard in a Nintendo game. So Nintendo has finally learned that rock music is cool. I love that soundtrack. And last year, Cocoon. While I cannot like perform the Cocoon theme for you, I feel like the sound in that game was amazing. I mentioned on the end of the year episode, so that I feel like the sound really augmented that game experience as well. Now I'm done. That's my list, and we can move on to Scott's next question.
You don't have to rush. You can take your time.
Yeah, take your
I made my point. I made my points.
I'm very sorry, man. I did not mean to skip over you.
I don't care.
All right, Alyssa, any soundtracks you listen to outside of the game itself? Like when you're trying to get some work done, or?
I typically don't listen to soundtracks outside of their respective mediums. That includes games, movies, TV shows. I mostly stick to just other songs I enjoy when I'm doing
K-pop.
work or whatever. Yeah, a lot of K-pop this year. But I will say, like, when I have panic attacks or whatever, I do listen to a lot of lo-fi, and A Space for the Unbound, which I adored last year. I gushed about it a ton last year on the podcast. Has an amazing lo-fi soundtrack that is just so relaxing to listen to. So that does get added to my I need to calm down playlist. So that one is does have a special place in my heart just because it does help calm me down, and it's such a great game, such a beautiful soundtrack. So that's the one that really I do listen to outside of playing it.
Nice. Now, Grant, before I try to skip over you, do you have any soundtracks that you listen to, when you're not playing the game itself?
I always go back to the Katamari Damacy soundtrack.
Oh, really?
I love the music, and they're all so infectious and different. The songs in that game, and I love it so much. I was in a band called Lonely Rolling Star, and we were named after, or Lonely Rolling Stars, and we were named after one of the songs in Katamari. So I love listening to that. I also love a lot of the kind of more synthwavy stuff in games. I love any soundtrack made by this guy named Monomer. Monomer. He did the Mummy Demastered. Do you guys remember that game? It was
I love that game.
Yeah, the music in that game is awesome and is great as just driving music. It's on Spotify. And a lot of the classics, I mean, I love the double, like, I don't put the Double Dragon music on, but if a band is ever covering Double Dragon, I just got to listen to the whole thing. I love classics redone. I don't always put on an old chip track, but Vomitron. Kicking Double Dragon, and some of the other anything by Tim Fallon Follin. He did like the Solstice music. He did music for Pictionary for the NES, which I know sounds weird, but it's this like rock and roll soundtrack on Pictionary. Somehow he was able to write whatever he wanted in any game he was hired to write for, and it doesn't always fit the game. The games are mostly bad, but his music is always good. He did Silver Surfer as well. But yeah, all Tim Follin's music I love. I have like a mix of his stuff that I like putting on. So yeah.
Nice.
There you go.
And Zach.
Well, I don't listen to a lot of music in my free time, as has been discussed. Sorry, Grant.
That's
but
okay.
but yeah, of course I will throw on a Nier soundtrack here or there. But really, what I do is when I'm reviewing a game, I will often try to look for its soundtrack online somewhere and have that in the background while I'm writing the review.
Oh, that's smart.
That's cool.
It's because music is such a good memory trigger, right? So it helps you think back to some of those
I'm
moments.
totally stealing that, man.
Yeah, I'm gonna steal that too.
Yeah, well, all right. Free pro tip, I guess.
Yeah.
But outside of that, the 2 video game soundtracks I can listen to in my free time, and I've never gotten sick of them, no matter the amount of years, would be the Ocarina of Time soundtrack, which I think just has such a breadth to it, so many different genres involved in that soundtrack. And shout out to the Gerudo Valley theme, because that's the best song on there.
I
of course.
agree.
I'm with you.
But my favorite soundtrack to any video game ever is Final Fantasy IX.
Nice.
I like when I worked in cafes and my bosses weren't around, I would throw on the FF9 soundtrack because it can just make for good music to listen to in almost any circumstance. I think it's just a flawless soundtrack, I guess.
Very cool. I gotta play that game too. It's on my list.
I'm sure you'll never get to it.
Summer, man. It's happening this year.
Sure. If you want to, I'll play it alongside with you if it helps get you through it.
Okay. All right. I have a lot because when I'm like trying to get work done, and when I'm talking about work, I'm talking about like work at my computer. Like I'm getting writing done, or I'm doing schoolwork, or lesson plans, or grading, or report cards, whatever. I can't listen to music with lyrics because I'm just going to focus on the lyrics more than anything else. So my instrumental go-tos is video game music, and my easy ones are the Celeste soundtrack. If you have not listened to that soundtrack is absolutely amazing. It has highs and lows, which kind of goes with the theme of that game. If you know what the story is about, it's really really good. I listened to Final Fantasy 7 and 8's soundtracks on repeat, especially the remastered one for 7 is so much better than the original. And I just love listening to that and picturing moments from the game while I'm listening to the soundtrack. One that I feel is like nobody ever talks about too much is the Bastion soundtrack. I don't know if you guys remember that. Is that Supergiant?
It is.
Yeah.
That soundtrack is just gorgeous, especially that first opening track. Because even if you listen to the soundtrack, they got that guy doing the voice, from the game where he's like,
Narrator.
the kid just kind of rages for a couple minutes, and I just love that so much.
Build That Wall is an incredible song.
Yeah. Super Meat Boy has a really fun soundtrack, but there is actually a piano cover of the entire Super Meat Boy soundtrack that is really relaxing, even though it's on a piano. It almost sounds like Mario music, like Super Mario World, like that like ragtime almost. Love that one. Alyssa mentioned Portal earlier. I actually have listened to the Portal 2 soundtrack when I've actually sat out by the fire with a beer and like just listen to that soundtrack because it's just very relaxing. And then lastly, the Tetris Effect soundtrack is really, really solid for just kind of just like those lo-fi vibes you were talking about, Alyssa.
Yeah.
I've actually played that in my classroom with my students when they're working, and they like it.
Cool.
Like it's because it's got.
I need
it's
to
got
listen
that,
to it.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a ton of lyrics. There's like a couple songs that have lyrics, but most of it's instrumental. But it's got that modern groove to it that even my students appreciate. So that's what's on my list. That is what we thought. Let's go over to the community. We had a few comments starting over on Facebook. Sean Coates says SimCity 3000 and Far Cry 5 are a couple soundtracks that come to mind. Vastly different games, of course, but I enjoy the downtown jazz soundtrack of SimCity. It perfectly complements the urban development of the gameplay. As for Far Cry 5, I enjoy the ominous and eerie gospel tunes used by the cultists, and the Americana folk tunes of the score makes for a great backdrop of rural America under the grips of a doomsday cult. Also, the rockabilly and blues rock licensing songs are great as well. I got to back him up on Far Cry 5. That makes me want to go do that game again, because, man, what a game. What a game.
I look forward to playing it one day.
Yes.
Probably the same day you'll play and finish Nier Automata is the same day I'll play Far Cry 5.
Oh, man.
The story is really interesting in Far Cry 5.
Yeah.
Oh, it looks interesting. And, Joseph Seed is a gross villain name.
It is, yeah.
Yeah. It's terrible. Kevin Honigford writes in, as far as favorite soundtracks, I might be biased, but Tomoya Otani always seems to hit it out of the park in the Sonic games. And I think Grant might be able to attest to how cool the Grandia 2 soundtrack is.
Truth. It's true.
I looked into Grandia 2 after last week's episode, and it looks very good. And it actually kind of reminds me of Trails in terms of the combat system.
Yeah?
And I think the combat system in Trails is exceptional.
See, Zach, if we were roommates, you could just borrow my Switch and play that game whenever you wanted.
Well, it's only, I'll just wait for a nice eShop sale and pick it on up.
There
No
you
big
go.
deal. If only you had a physical game, as all games should be.
I know.
You could easily send me a copy of Grandia on Switch.
Well, I was gifted a copy by our own Kevin Honigford, so he bought me a digital copy. I didn't have a choice in the matter.
Because he really wanted you to play Grandia?
Yes.
Yeah.
And
it looks
And
fun,
I actually
man.
played it,
Did you get a shot at me? Is that what it is?
Yeah, it was.
Yes.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fair.
I'm just giving you a hard time, man.
No,
Alyssa,
that's perfectly warranted. I deserve that.
Alyssa, you want to do the next one?
Yeah, I gotta make a pun. We're hopping over to Discord, which ties into Brandon Lloyd's comment, which says Frog's theme as he cleaves the mountain in Chrono Trigger. One of the best today. Figaro? The Figaro?
Yes.
Sure.
Figaro's theme as Edgar rises Figaro to escape the Empire.
So cool.
Is that the flying castle?
Yes.
Okay.
Buried
I
in the
have
sand.
no idea, so I'm just like, who? What? Huh?
Oh, if you ever wanted to play a JRPG, Alyssa, start with that one.
I want to really badly. Locke and Celeste opera scene.
You're with me now.
Magus?
Magus.
Magus? I don't know how to say it.
I always said
Oh,
Magus.
Did you really? I always said Magus.
Oh.
Okay, there's different opinions.
Well, don't worry. When the Chrono Trigger remake comes out in 2035,
Yeah.
I'll finally know what people are talking about when it comes out. Chrono Cross opening theme.
Mm-hmm.
Red 13's Final Fantasy VII theme is top tier. Chrono Trigger and Final Fantasy VI have some of the best OSTs ever. God SNES audio was so iconic. Shining Force 2 had a great OST. Also,
Heck yeah.
Donkey Kong Country, and more recently, Ori and the Blind Forest was amazing.
Am I the only one, whenever they hear Red 13, they want to follow it up with Standing By?
yes, I think you are.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Look, I appreciate the shouts to the Rogue Squadron, but
Yeah.
I think of the talking cat guy
Yeah,
first.
I do too.
I suppose.
Donkey Kong Country, the one that stands out for me is I don't remember what it's called, but the underwater level
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. Oh yeah.
from Donkey Kong Country.
He was listening to a lot of Duran Duran when he wrote that. He told me.
Yeah.
He told me in person.
That Grant Kirkhope and David
Yeah.
Wise, right?
David Wise did the underwater, and he was way into Duran Duran. And if you listen to it again, you will totally know what he's talking about.
Yeah.
It's Duran Duran.
Yeah.
All right, I'm intrigued.
Let's see. Grant, you want to do the next one?
Yeah, Mark Szymanski says, Koji Kondo gets my respect. To make such iconic tunes with such limitations stuns me to this day. So right. I decided just to pull up the Koji Kondo list to see, and it's basically just, he did some, he did Punch-Out!, he did Golf, he did Kung Fu, but it's basically Mario and Zelda ever since the mid-'80s. He's got his name on every single Zelda and Mario game, and he is video game music, like the stuff he wrote is the stuff that non-gamers know. And so 100% Koji Kondo is king. So glad he's still going.
That's probably a good point. The Mario theme song might be like the one piece of video game music you could ask anybody about.
Oh
and they
yeah,
would
it's
recognize
iconic.
it.
It's like you can go da 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 da, or you can go
Yes.
Yeah.
somebody And like, it's this, you're gonna get the
I
same
think it's
reaction
Shrek when someone-
from anybody, like it's right there, neck and neck.
Dunna, dunna, dunna.
Yeah.
Dunna, dunna, dunna.
Good. And there is a podcast I listened to that was all about music theory, and they did an episode on the Legend of Zelda music. That if I could find the name of it, I actually shared it on this podcast as like the the thing to share at the end of the show or whatever. It was fascinating when you actually break down the structure of the Zelda music that he put together. It's just fascinating. There's almost like a math to it, or the way things kind of come back and revisit themselves that I just never even realized after like dissecting. That was so good. I got to find that one. Grant, I think you would appreciate that, especially being a Zelda fan. So, all right, last comment comes from Paul Hine. He says, I am so excited for this topic, positively vibrating. Here's my short list, and follow the link for more reasons behind the list and video links to the soundtracks themselves. Paul actually sent this to me as well. He sent me a Google Doc. He's posted it on our Discord server where he put together links to YouTube videos and almost like a mini essay on each of these soundtracks. He was really excited about this topic. But here's his list. Medal of Honor Frontline, Mass Effect Trilogy, Cyberpunk 2077, Halo 2, World of Warcraft, Legend of Zelda, and Doom 1993. He actually put that in parentheses instead of mine was is it 2019 or 2016? I can never remember. 2016?
Mm-hmm.
That was
E1M1.
Yeah, baby.
What a banger.
Yep.
so good.
Love it.
That
Great list.
was a fun topic. Grant, thank you so much for joining. I had a great time picking your brain about what it takes to make video game music, and then also hearing some of your soundtracks, and I hope our listeners did as well.
Yeah, love talking about tunes and especially with you guys.
Yeah. We got to do this more often, man.
Show.
I don't think I can wait till Game of the Year episode next year to have you on again, because this is just too much
I'll
fun.
crash your party.
Yeah, dude. Do it. Next week's topic, it's gonna be the first of the month, so we're gonna go back to community questions. So be ready to have those questions for us. We'd love to answer them on the show, and keep an eye on the socials for that. But that is gonna do it for this episode of The Gaming Outsider. Thank you so much for listening. The episode was produced by Kevin Honigford, and all the music you hear is written by this guy right here, Grant Henry of Stemmage and Metroid Metal. His website is stemagemusic.com. Please be sure to email us. And if you have any questions or concerns, our address is feedback@thegamingoutsider.com. Grant, do you have any parting words or recommendations for our listeners outside of in the video game world?
Go check out the music by Tim Follin, Timfollin. Go check out Solstice and Silver Surfer and Pictionary to get your face rocked on the Nintendo sound chip. And
I'm gonna go look up Pictionary when we're done with this.
Won't even
I gotta get my face wrong.
You won't even believe it. Just look up the Pictionary theme song for NES, and you turn it up, and it's like, what are we even doing here? The game is so weird. Anyway, and a big shout to Kevin. Like, Kevin is like putting in the work to this show.
Seriously.
He's doing so much cool stuff, and I haven't got to chat with him a ton, but we'll send messages every once in a while. So big shout to Kev for his hard work, and thanks for all the questions.
Yeah. He is doing he's doing a lot behind the scenes that nobody sees. He edits the show. He's been doing a lot of work on TikTok, trying to get our presence on there. He's been trying. He's been reaching out to companies, trying to get us sponsorships and writing emails and responding to emails. He sent me an email and said, "I need you to fill out this paperwork, this W-9 and all this kind of stuff." So like he's really doing a lot of stuff that nobody sees. And I really do appreciate it. So thanks for that. Shout out to him, man. That's awesome. Zach, how about you?
Parting words? Yeah. The Cobra Commander comic book is so bloody and so over the top outrageous. You would be blown away that Hasbro is allowing this comic to come out.
Wow.
Cool.
So my shout out is the Energon universe of comics once again. I definitely shouted out when Transformers started, but these are characters I am unfamiliar with and do not know much about. But these comic books are just some of the best books coming out right now.
Wow.
And that's coming from somebody with no emotional attachment. So maybe you would be upset at how bloody it was if you were a G.I. Joe fan. I don't know. But it's like, you're like watching a dude get chainsawed in half in a G.I. Joe comic is not something I ever anticipated occurring. But also the slow way they're building this universe and making sure G.I. Joe and Transformers are tied so tightly together, in addition to the sci-fi series Void Rivals, like it's just they're building a brand new universe, man, and it is just it's been killer every step of the way.
I did not expect that recommendation.
Yeah, so.
Awesome.
Shout out.
Alyssa, how about you?
I've got two that I'll briefly talk about. First up, I watched Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds. This is my second time. When I first watched it, it was a long time ago, at least a decade, if not more. I didn't like it when I first watched it. I don't know why. I found it boring, but I decided to give it another watch, and I loved it this time. Like, I don't know if just age has made me appreciate it more, and I wasn't as into film itself back then, so maybe having a deeper appreciation for cinema made me like the film more. But I really adored The Birds, and I've adored several other Hitchcock movies I've watched this year. Great film. Don't know what younger Alyssa was thinking, but we'll forgive her. And then I just yesterday, as of the time of recording, I watched one of the only Bong Joon-ho films I have not seen today, or I've seen it now, Memories of Murder, which is based on a true story, centered around the Gyeonggi serial murder case in Korea in the 80s. And I don't know how Bong Joon-ho does it, but every film he does, they're so serious, but he manages to put comedy in there. And it's not like in-your-face comedy, but it's funny. Like, it's just whatever is happening on screen, it just makes you laugh, but then you get hit with an emotional beat next. He's just a master director and filmmaker, and it was so just incredibly filmed and directed and written, and the last shot is very haunting, and I'm so glad I finally managed to watch it. I've got one movie of his left, which is his first movie, and
Cool.
that one seems a little like it could be triggering to me, but I'll watch it one day. But Memories of Murder is great. It is that one's Korean though, so you do have to watch it with subtitles. But wonderful.
What else has he? Who is this director known for?
He has also directed Parasite. He did 2 English language movies. Snowpiercer was completely in English. Okja had some English, some Korean. But he's most known for Parasite.
Is The Host in Korean as well?
Yes, The Host is a film of his, which amazing. Also, Mother by him is a great film. I love all of his movies. What am I saying? They're all great. Besides the first movie, which I have not seen.
We should.
Just watch all of his movies.
We should talk about Hitchcock more. But have you seen Rear Window or Dial M for Murder?
I've seen Rear Window. It's my favorite Hitchcock film. I have not seen Dial M for Murder.
You should watch
yet,
Dial
though.
M for Murder. I think that might be my
This
favorite.
year is a Hitchcock film year, so I will definitely be watching more
Cool
stuff. So,
well, I wasn't going to make a recommendation because I didn't do anything interesting this week outside of games and work. But since you brought up Hitchcock, I will tell you and the listeners that our good friend of the show, Aaron Peterson, actually has a podcast called Presenting Hitchcock, where he and some friends go through and dissect each movie. And if you like The Birds and are liking some of these other ones, I recommend you check it out because they do a good job over there. So Presenting Hitchcock, it's on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to the episodes. So check it out.
Dig it.
All right. It was great chatting with all you guys. It was so much fun. Love doing this each and every week. We're closing in. We're getting very close to 500 episodes, guys. I think sometime in May we are going to be at 500 episodes. So
I think you calculated it to be May 5th.
It was either that or the week after, because
something like that.
I'm supposed to be out of town the week of our 500th episode. So we're going to have to skip a week or something so that I can be here for episode 500, because there's no way that's not going to happen. But anyway, until next week, I'm Scott Clark with Zach Parkerson, Alyssa White, and Grant Henry, and we are the Gaming Outsider. And remember, there's no such thing as a bad game, just games that aren't for you.